Drinking this album, listen to the brews. I think it would pair well, if only for you, 'cause it's album brews. It's album brews.
So sentimental.
Yeah.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to, can you freaking believe it, the 100th episode of Album Brews.
Oh no, our sound effects are gone.
Oh.
Yeah.
They never left. Can you believe we've been doing this for 100 episodes, Zach?
That's so crazy to me.
If I could go back and tell younger us where we are now, I think they'd be flabbergasted.
Yeah.
As always, my name is Sarah. I'm one of your co-hosts here today, tonight, always, and forever.
Oh, that's nice. I am a southern man in a northern land. My name is Zach, and I'm excited to be here, episode 100.
Period.
When they love me, and they will, I'll tell them all to love in my shadow. I'm Dan Stewart.
You can find me sulking drunk at the back of the bar. My name is Garrison Krotz. Insert explosion noises, firecrackers.
Oh,
Yes,
there you go.
yes.
Yeah, lots of firecracker noises on this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We should just kind of have that going low level through the
whole
entire
time,
episode.
Yeah, it's because this is a celebration.
This is a
episode.
celebration.
Yes.
We're rocking out.
Dang, that works so well. I didn't think about that.
It's so perfect.
perfect.
Everything is falling into place.
So Dan and Garrison, you're in the band Damager. You've been on the show before back in November of 2022.
Indeed.
Tell us a little bit about your new record, what you've been up to, how you been.
It's been a very long 2 years
Oh, man.
in some ways.
So much has happened.
Some ways. We played some shows.
Uh-huh.
We played a lot of shows.
We have done a lot of shows and in
Yeah.
cool places, I would say, since then.
Yeah.
And we recorded a new studio album, our debut studio album this spring that's coming at you October 18th. At the time of release of this episode, it will already be out.
Mhm.
It's called Forever or Else. We recorded it with Ray Ortiz. What do you think of Forever or Else, Garrison?
I think Forever Else is a rockin' good time. I think it falls in line with the record we're about to talk about for a long time called
Yeah.
Celebration Rock. Am I not
Hondo
supposed to
Pete.
announce that?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so we're
They
talking
read the
about...
title.
They read, they know.
Yeah, I think the record is awesome. It was
Oh.
so much fun making, and it was fun to be in the studio with the guys actually like pulling it together versus kind of like piecemeal before. We actually came in with this entire record written together, and I think it sounds freaking awesome. I think you're gonna like it a lot,
That's
especially if you're into
amazing.
like any. I don't know. I don't want to give it away. It's freaking awesome. It's so much fun.
We loved it. We had a great
Yeah.
time with it.
If you have seen Damager before, you know that they have such a fun, special energy. And it's definitely so present in this record. We've been lucky enough to hear it. And if you haven't seen Damager before, you are going to be knocked on your adorable little ass. Because this record is a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about this record you've chosen and why you chose it.
I guess I nominally actually picked the album, but
I mean, you are the one in the Japandroids shirt.
maybe I might be.
Allegedly.
But you can't tell because you're an audio listener, and you'll just have to sit in that mystery for the rest
It's
of
a
your life.
great shirt.
It is.
Let me describe
Give
it
it
to you.
away. Yeah, I think this band and this album in particular is this touch point and this reference that is a constant through us writing music and playing music together. And it's very special to me for a long time. And I have, my own anecdote of how I discovered it. But I'm actually curious because I don't know when you would have first heard this or how you came into this record.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting because the last time we were on, we talked about Titus Andronicus, and I learned about Japandroids and experienced them really for the first time, about the same time in my life when I just moved to Chicago for the first time, and it opened me up to a whole new world of like what rock music can be and stuff that I definitely missed when I was a kid. And it influenced me a lot. But also, I think what's cool is that when Dan and I first met, I think Titus Andronicus and Japandroids were like the bands that we talked about the most, like the kind of thing that I don't know helped merge our friendship.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what Japandroids music is about. It's kind of like dude friendship. So
Yeah.
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 It's just two guys.
It's seriously.
And
Some
they
two
feel
guys.
they feel like great friends.
Yeah.
Totally.
I discovered this actually. So my brother was really into their first album, Post Nothing, which was from 2009. And he put me onto that. And I don't think I listened to it, but he definitely told me about it. He was like, there's a band called Japandroids. Isn't that a cool name? And I was like, yeah. And also it's a name where you kind of don't get the essence of what the band really is. I kind of think it
Totally.
sounds like a synth rock band.
Yeah, like an OK Computer. Or
Yeah,
like
something like that.
Kid A.
And then when Celebration Rock came out, it was at a time where in high school I was our high school newspaper music and film writer, and I would go to school every day And in the morning, I would have 20, 30 minutes before our first class started, and I would go to our journalism room. I'd get on the computer, and I would open up pitchfork.com.
Of course.
And I remember Celebration Rock came out, and it was best new music, and I read all about it, and I listened to it, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And from there, this is like dawn of Spotify. And it was like, listeners also like Titus Andronicus. Listeners also like Cloud Nothings and Symbols Eat Guitars. And there was like this little group of bands that kind of like brought like big, loud rock music back, and noisy rock music in that like 2010s, 2013 time. And it was like, had a profound impact on me because I still list, all those bands I like as big influences. And in fact, last time when we talked about Titus Andronicus, I brought my autographed Titus Andronicus vinyl, and today I have something even more special. Maybe.
Oh, shit!
Dan is unzipping a backpack.
Mystery backpack reveal.
I have
Backpack
the
ASMR.
pirated CD that I burned for my car.
Oh my God!
From the year
Um,
2012.
From the year
relic.
2012, and it
Whoa.
looks like a vinyl.
Oh my God! Handwritten.
Handwritten Celebration Rock 2012.
That's beautiful.
Oh my God!
How many plays do you think you got it?
Oh, I got a ton.
Yeah.
I think this is probably one of my most listened to albums
Amazing.
ever. And we might have listened to this in the car on the road,
Yeah.
frankly, because
That's where it's meant to be listened to, truly.
yeah.
Totally.
It's
Yeah.
yeah.
They've been like such a big part of like my musical life, I feel, since then. And they're so special to me in particular because they're so mysterious also. And that, Celebration Rock came out, and then I was like, I remember just like years and years of being like, when we get any more? And it would be another 5 years until they released their next one. And by that point I was in college, and I was probably 21 at that point. And it was like, then I was like, oh man, drinking, rock and roll. Like I started starting to get that. And then for the past 7 years since then, they went on like a tour, and then COVID happened, and then they just totally went silent, and I feel that over this past year, I was thinking so much about like, man, what happened to that? I guess they're just done. There was a time, I think it was 2022, when they were announced to play at a festival and play Celebration Rock for its 10th anniversary, and then they canceled it, and like nobody ever heard anything.
Oh wow.
And so like throughout this year in particular, I remember like being in the studio, and we had a lot of reference points. And Japandroids being one of them. And I remember we were listening back to the song Incident on Montrose Ave, which is on her new record. And I was just like lying on the floor, and I was like, Japandroids can retire. We got this. And
You
then
put it into the ether.
I did. You ruined it. I was like, we got this. And then I remember this summer, it was like we met up as a band like after the albums like mixed and mastered and everything, and we were talking about like what are we going to do this fall, and what's our EPK going to look like, and what do we talk about, and like there was this idea of like, what, we're kind of bringing an energy with this album that is the celebration rock genre maybe, and that was a fun branding thing. And then literally within 24 hours I woke up to a text message from our friend Ben Goldenberg, and it was just a link to a song called Chicago by Japandroids. And I was like, this is insane. I was like, my brain melted.
Literally
So
cosmic.
serendipitous.
Yeah. And it was like, a Canadian band, and the song is called Chicago.
Uh-huh.
Come on.
Come on.
Come on,
Canadians
guys.
love Chicago.
They must. And then it's like, we literally just talked about it, and then they announced that their next album, which will also be their last, comes out the week before ours.
Wow.
And it's like, like we don't know these people,
Right.
or anything, but like just for me and like my emotional attachment to like what kinds of music I want to write and what kind of music I love. And it's just like, this is so, cosmic,
Yeah.
it's like, it's divine.
Yeah.
And yeah, so here we are. I think Celebration Rock is kind of like the peak of their music for me in a lot of ways. I love all of it, but yeah, that's kind of the
So
history.
that's the lore
Yeah.
that
The
we're
lore.
coming into this with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there was also another weird lineup, like with this episode 100, like with it
Yeah.
being like for your release and like you guys coming back on.
Yeah.
And then it even pairs into our drink pairing.
Yes.
Which is a Chicago Handshake.
Yes, it is.
Can you believe in 100 episodes we've never done this
No.
as a pairing?
Yeah.
I think we may have had these components. Anyway,
I don't know.
Like separately,
perhaps.
a Malort episode. Hey, shout out to whoever just did Malort for their episode. If that happened.
Or no.
We've done a bunch of like Malort drinks.
Yes.
No one's ever just been like, hey, we're only drinking Malort. Thank you for not doing that to us.
Thank you. Unless you have good reasoning. I'm up for most things. But yes, today we're doing a Chicago Handshake. Is there any particular reasoning behind that as it pertains to this record?
There are a couple of reasons. I think one for me, this particular pairing is my dealer's choice as far as if I'm going to go out and rock and roll. A Chicago Handshake at the bar at a rock and roll concert.
Can't go wrong.
And I think that's very Japandroids. And also, we have a song on this new album called Old Style, which may surprise you when you hear it. Shout out to Pabst Brewing Company for all the support.
For sponsoring the song.
helping us out. Yeah.
They really have. We were drinking beers in our photo shoot that we did with the legend Tracy Conboy.
Yes, of course.
And I've posted them on Instagram. I didn't tag Old Style, but they reshared them on their story.
Wow.
Wait, really?
Without prompt. So hopefully, Titus Andronica has responded or reposted our previous episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking if you maybe nudge Old Style.
And Japandroids.
And
It's
Japandroids.
about goddamn
and Malort
Jepsons.
for all. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck it. I'm tagging everyone.
Yeah.
The Japandroids guys just get like a warm feeling in their ear. They're like, maybe somebody. No, that's nothing.
Are some
That's nothing.
Chicago
Chicago.
podcasters talking about us for 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, if people at home are not from Chicago, if they're not in the scene, what comprises a Chicago Handshake?
You got an Old Style.
Yep.
Ice cold. And then you got Malort. If you haven't had Malort before, it's a liqueur.
Yes, it is.
The best way to describe it is, how would you describe it? The flavor, the
Oh,
taste.
this is fun. Kind of earwaxy, personally.
Oh yeah.
Very bitter.
Yep.
Grapefruit.
Sure, if
Grapefruit.
you want to be
That's a great
polite about
chaser.
it.
Yeah.
Grapefruit and licorice.
I've heard people say it's like some sort of fruit, but if you like drink it after someone threw it up. I've heard that.
There is
That's so
something.
mean.
Well, yeah, that's the thing with Malort is I do think sometimes people veer so into the like, it tastes like your grandmother's asshole
Yeah.
or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Like we just get crude with it.
Yeah.
But if I'm being practical, it kind of bitter, kind of herby. A lot of people think it is not pleasant. But you were saying, Dan, that due to some manufacturing changes, it may be a bit more pleasant today versus the original brew.
Yeah. As far as Malort's history is concerned, I don't have all the facts, but it was produced in Florida for the longest time. And I think it developed its legacy based on whoever was distilling it and producing it in Florida. And then within the past 10 years, its production was moved to CH Distillery here in Chicago. And I think they've changed the recipe to be a little bit more palatable. Because I remember my first shot of Malort. Garrison was there.
Really?
Yes.
Memories.
Nisei
Aw.
Lounge, January 2020,
Damn.
with her friend Nathan.
Aw.
And I remember thinking it was disgusting.
Yes, of course.
And I think it was just like a different level then,
Mm.
And now you're about to have this one, and you're going to be like, you know what? Not as bad.
No, actually, I've gone the other way. Every time I have it, I feel like it's worse.
Oh.
Well, here we go. Case
here we-
study.
Oh,
Yeah.
fun. I love science.
Oh, actually, yes. So my question is then, when did you get these shooters? And
Thank
are they
you
made in
so
Florida, or
much.
are they?
These shooters are from 2021, 2022.
2022.
These are the shooters I got whenever we saw the Calico Loco, My Chemical Romance Halloween set at RIP Golden Dagger.
Calico Loco, Pink Squeeze. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Legendary Halloween.
And so we
set.
were going to oh, why am I blanking on it?
The Music Box Theater afterward, immediately.
Yeah.
See Rocky Horror.
And so I got these. And we were with some friends. We were all going to do them. They all said no. So we only drank 2 of the 6.
We drank 2 of the 6, and I guess
And
you
the other
have
4 exist right here.
Oh,
Legendary.
perfect number.
perfect number. It's all fate.
It's all fate.
Cheers to 100 episodes, 100 years, record
Cheers to you.
releases,
Cheers,
and
dears.
friends.
Oh,
Cheers!
100 years.
Are you okay?
I hit a little air pocket.
Yeah, something about that wasn't as good as like open.
I can like taste it in my eyeballs. Like I don't know how else to describe
All
it.
right.
It like makes my face
So,
burn.
in traditional fashion, let's
I didn't finish
let's chase
it.
that down.
Ugh.
There's more
I
pickle in it than usual.
I started laughing because I heard a little like gurgles. Everyone was making.
It was just the plastic bottle, like the way that the air was distributed
It just
was
was, like,
just
not-
I squelched,
Not-
frankly.
Yeah,
Frankly.
yeah. We'll have to sample
Oh.
that for episode 2 of Squelching Time.
Oh, Dan and I recently went to
Oh.
a show
Yeah.
at G-Man Tavern.
At the gym,
And they were trying to, I'm not going to say the brand, but this alcohol brand was trying to get us to do chasers with Malort. So like we do a shot of Malort and then we drink their alcohol,
Mm.
and we tried it, and it didn't work
Oh,
at all.
no.
And the rep came over, but Dan didn't realize that this was the alcohol rep, the sales rep, and they were like talking. He goes, "Well, so how'd you like it?" And Dan's like, "Oh, it was terrible. Like, hey,
I was talking mad shit on this brand.
Yeah, you'll know we sold out when you see us like sponsored or partnering with
By that exact.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? We're repping old style, and I'm like doing it in casual conversation.
No, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
If I could
Come on.
continue to casually rep, I gotta say, Old Style after Malort really is just a sweet little kiss.
It is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really did soothe me.
And I think pairs so well with the record. It's so rock and roll.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into the record that I'm so excited about, I've got a game. It's a game I've been sitting on for a while. It's a perfect episode 100 to bring it out. This is a game called Historical Moment in Music or Hysterical Meme to Me. And so I'm going to play a piece of audio, and it is either A, a historical moment in music, or B, a hysterical meme to me.
Oh shit.
Very good.
I love that.
So some of them will just be a snippet, some of them will be at length. You guys will be against each other. You'll get a point for correctly identifying historical moment in music or hysterical meme to me.
We have to know what the moment was. or
And then
can
a
we just
second point if you know what it was.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And for the second point, I might play more of the clip
Okay.
for hints.
Cool.
And so I've collected all these, and I usually go easiest to hardest, but I've just got them in random. So we'll just see how they go. So just a tidbit on this one.
Oh.
That's a moment.
Dan?
That seems like a meme.
That seems like an infomercial to me. Can there be a secret third option? Or meme, I guess I'll say.
This one is actually
Buddy
Oh, I
Guy. No, it's
Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry.
yes. So
John
bonus
again.
point for correctly identifying Chuck Berry. That's the Yoko Ono scream. And the Chuck Berry.
Oh, is it
and
the?
John Lennon.
Oh, is that document like Chuck Berry's birthday movie where like Keith Richards and Eric Clapton and all them play with him?
It is. Yeah, it's whenever she just like starts screaming on like they're on like a TV show and it's Chuck Berry and John Lennon. And she's just like going at it and they cut her mic after.
Oh, I have seen that. I have seen
Yeah.
that.
I was not familiar.
Wait a
Yeah,
second,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of a meme then, also.
Wait a
Oh
second.
yeah, I was
true.
gonna say. Yeah, okay,
Actually.
yeah. So everyone gets a point for that. One
Nice,
bonus
argued
point.
my way
Moment
Yeah.
into a point.
Consistently advocating for
I think
the
I should get
underdogs.
1.2.
Yeah,
Of course.
all right.
Of course.
That was good. That was good. All right, moment or meme.
This gives moment. This feels like a moment. If it's a meme, I don't know it. And I consider myself pretty well versed.
I'm actually imagining like that cartoon with the skeleton playing his own bones like a xylophone.
Oh.
Then make it a meme. Then make it a meme.
That would be a meme.
Like the early Disney.
I mean, that's also a moment in skeleton history, frankly. Which is something I
Are we
study.
gonna get on Bone Watch?
Skeleton Watch.
We're playing the greatest game, negotiation.
Yeah, this is argument. Like,
Okay,
all right, meme.
Meme.
I'm also going meme.
Okay, this is a moment.
Me.
This, do you guys
Wait.
want to guess for it, or can
It's
I
the
just tell ya?
skeleton. It's the skeleton.
I don't know if you'll know
It's
it.
just piano. Is this like, because it sounds like shit, is this like the first record or something?
Is this Rocket 88 by the Platters or whatever, like the first rock song?
Well, I'll give you the point for that, Dan.
Damn.
This is according to history of history of rock and roll 500 songs. This is the first recorded instance of a backbeat.
Hilarious.
Okay. Interesting.
So this is
Damn it, Stewart.
plausibly one
How
of the
did you not know
first
that?
times. This is Pete Johnson and Joe Turner. He was a boogie woogie piano player, and most of the time the piano would be swung, not straight at all.
Ooh.
And so this is an instant of the piano giving a strong beat on the 2 and 4, a strong precursor to early rock and roll.
Interesting.
Nice.
So I'll play some of that if you guys just want to hear
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
You so beautiful, but you got die someday. Well, you so beautiful, but you got die.
We should cover this.
And that'll
Yeah, I
be
bet that
another
was
historical
great.
moment.
Saying that to any music ever or anytime.
Do we know the first song with cymbals?
Oh,
I have I have an
Oh.
issue with those,
Oh,
Yeah, Jeff Cronin will know. Modern day, I really, really dislike cymbals. They hurt your ears. They're so loud. They crash through everything. Anyway, in a mix, they're so freaking loud. Sorry.
I prefer
just like
The
thinking
tambourine.
hi-hat's always way too loud
You can
every
cut this.
record.
Wasn't this like a Steve Albini thing about like he's
yeah, he
like,
didn't mic-
never mic cymbals. No one needs to hear any more
he
cymbals.
called
Well,
it
he
like
did
a-
overheads, but he didn't do the top hat.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought you were supposed to put the mic right directly under it. So when you hit it, it sounds nice and loud.
You can, if you hate me.
I'm shitting.
All right, here we go. Here we go. This is a fun one. Here we go. Moment or meme?
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
Memes at this point in society can be so inexplicable and weird. Like, I mean, like,
Stop trying to negotiate. your
no.
way.
I think this is a meme.
Yeah.
Someone just yelling saxophone and it being like kind of a fucked up saxophone
Yeah.
solo. That feels familiar in
That's
a meme
hilarious.
territory, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
like,
agree with you. I think this is a meme.
How about you?
meme. Yeah.
Meme. Oh, you guys are all. I guess now I'm like doubting my definition of meme.
No.
No.
But my original intention of this was a
Having
moment.
a crisis.
Okay, it's a moment. It's okay for us to lose.
Aw.
It's okay to accept our
I want you guys
failures.
to win.
It's a moment. It's a moment.
Can anyone tell me the moment? I'll let it play for a little longer.
Yeah.
I got a left field. I thought that it's the band Fear playing. They have a song called like
This song is about how much we love
No
you.
More Saxophones or like don't go to New York. It's something like that. It's like don't move to New York. No they got saxophones.
You get the point.
Yeah.
This is the band Fear.
Okay, sick.
Playing
Nice.
that
Wow, that
song.
gets you a
Holy
point.
Yeah.
shit.
Wow, okay.
This is the Halloween episode of Saturday Night Live in 1981.
Oh, sick. Oh my god.
And this is as soon as they start playing, the crowd like rushes the stage.
Yes.
They're like the mic falls into the pit and someone says "Fuck New York."
Because
And
they're
Okay.
like banned from SNL because
Yes.
of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because John Belushi was a huge fan of Fear.
Did we talk about this together?
Maybe I read this biography of John Belushi like a few years ago,
Yeah.
and there's a whole part about how he was obsessed with Fear and thought like hardcore punk was so cool,
Yeah.
and he was like, I'm gonna get like he had so much pull at SNL that he was just like, you gotta. Lauren, I'm gonna walk if you don't let Fear play. And then they start their performance and then it's like a fucking pit.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And then they're like, all right, it's over, we're done. And then it's like banned forever.
Yes.
Damn.
Maybe I did a bit about this where it was like people who were banned from SNL or something.
Maybe you
Because
did.
there are and okay. Anyway.
But just some more fun facts about this.
Please.
Ian McKay from Minor Threat Fugazi is in the pit, and you can hear him say "New York sucks" at
Hell
one
yeah.
point.
I'm
Ian
gonna do
McKay,
that.
legend.
I'm gonna do that
It
in the
was
damage
estimated
report.
at like $50,000 of damages between like the broken stage and like the fees they had to pay for cussing on air in 1981. And
Oh,
Damn.
okay. I was gonna say, is that $80s dollars?
so yeah, so a moment for definitely a moment in
I want to see.
history.
That's
footage.
awesome.
Yeah.
Zach will send you the link.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will. This will be yeah.
Should we start saying "fuck New York" on our
We should.
on
That's
stage?
funny.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
Then we
you
play
should,
New York.
You should pick a city every show.
Yeah,
There you go.
Just against the world.
Yeah. Fuck Omaha. Like
Well, whatever
Yeah.
city
Yeah.
that we're playing, we should like choose their like
The rival
arch
city.
nemesis.
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
so huge.
Who's Omaha's rival?
Chicago.
New York. Everybody hates New York.
Yeah, so we just say
Oh.
so New York. We settled on New York.
Until we
yeah.
get to New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we're
Change
like,
it.
Boston sucks.
Yeah. Philly.
Yeah.
Yeah. New Jersey. Fuck that. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Hey, I was born there, so
So no, not doing that.
All right, I got a couple more of these.
Okay.
Here's a moment or a meme. I don't know. You decide.
It has to
That-
be mean.
That sounds like Rammstein's Du Hast. Can you play it again? Is that allowed? That's
gotta be
Rammstein's Du Hast.
Yeah, so you get the bonus point already.
So that's a meme.
okay.
Yeah, this is just, I asked my buddy Riley, shout out Riley, who just always has the funniest YouTube videos. I was like, hey, can you send me a weird YouTube video for this bit I'm doing tonight? So this is a Russian band, like polka band doing
Bro.
duhas.
that is so Dan coded content. Like the fact that it's German. Like
I'm so proud of that. Just
It's
now.
really good. They're like behind a green screen, but there's like nothing on it. It's just green.
Texting a friend.
And shirtless.
Hey, can you send me funny YouTube videos?
It's for a bit.
It's for a bit.
Yeah, he sent
Wow.
me like 20.
Please never change. It's so perfect.
Awesome.
Oh, I love it.
All right, couple more. We'll get through them.
Okay. That's a moment.
Yeah, it's definitely a moment.
Yeah, that's can anyone guess what it is?
I know this riff. It's country.
Mm-hmm.
It's Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yes.
Folsom Prison.
Yeah.
On Johnny Cash show. He did that.
He did his own show.
On Johnny
This
Carson?
is Folsom Prison Blues at Folsom Prison.
Okay.
Nice.
Which won him a
Whoa.
Grammy that year for a live song.
Damn.
The first goth, Johnny Cash.
Truly.
Yeah.
Real. The first emo.
That was Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, you think so?
I feel like Johnny Cash is the first goth.
Interesting.
No,
know?
you're so right. You're
You
so
know?
right.
The Man in Black.
I watched the
Yeah.
Simpsons version of The Raven last night.
This is a Treehouse of Horror
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Shout out to Tommy
That's
Kessler.
As always.
Every time I hang out with Tommy, if you're listening, I love you. He's always like, "Have I showed you the episode where?" And it's like just about whatever we're talking about.
there's an episode of Simpsons for every
For
situation.
everything.
Yeah.
Have I shown you the episode where they go on Album Brews and they record the 100th episode of that podcast?
Oh my gosh.
It was a Treehouse of Horror. It's
Yes.
kind of
Yeah.
niche, but
They knew it was coming.
That's wild.
they predicted it, actually.
Conan knew.
All right. Moment or meme.
And from all over.
That's that's the skeleton came to life from I Think You Should Leave.
Yeah.
That's a meme.
Whoa!
But it's very Johnny Cash coded.
Very.
Yeah.
He cocked that crooked hammer
God.
back and
Yeah.
he brought that
You
hammer
clocked
down.
that so immediately.
I think this is
Money in our world bones equal dollars.
this is one of those pieces of media that's like in our ancestral DNA.
Absolutely.
It's a hysterical meme to me.
Yeah.
I think about it every day.
It is really funny. I read Johnny Cash's autobiography earlier this year, and I think I also rewatched Ring of Fire, which I actually really love Ring of Fire.
It's a good movie, yeah.
Or not Ring of Fire, Walk the Line. Sorry.
Walk the Line,
I love Ring of Fire, the song. It's in Tony Hawk's Underground too, by the way.
Of course.
And that scene is so exactly how like it happens. Kind of, he's like, well, I don't really want to hear any of these gospel songs. So if you got anything better, and then he just whips out and like
he
the
sounds like the dog from the curio shop in Webkins.
wow, that's a pull. I don't know.
Oh, this is in the studio when they're in the studio.
Yeah, when they're in the studio for the first time, and he's like finally got an audition to like record, and it's Johnny Cash is like, well, I do have this one. Folsom Prison, and then the other two guys are like looking at each other like, I don't know this
shit,
one,
they're
and then they
faking it.
just start making up the bass line, and it's perfect,
That's
know.
hilarious.
Oh.
All right, I've got two more.
Okay,
I forgot
perfect.
to keep track. I think Dan is winning.
Oh, by
if
far.
I had to guess.
Oh, by far.
Hey,
Garrison, we're in this together.
It's all right. Yeah, we'll tally our
Cheers.
points up.
Cheers, dude. Singular.
All right, meme or moment?
That's the amen break sound effect.
Uh-huh.
It's like one of the most sampled
Yeah.
things ever.
And I was going to say the same thing, but Dan beat me to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
By
definitely a
God.
moment. It's the Amen break from the track Amen Brother from 1969 by the American soul group Winston's.
Exactly.
And it is like the most sampled drum break ever. It's in a ton of 90s hip hop.
Yep.
They're getting royalties from that, right?
No, actually not.
What in the world?
Yeah, there was a whole thing according to Wikipedia.
Damn.
Yeah.
Really makes you think.
As soon as you know what that's called, you're gonna hear this.
It's the Wilhelm scream of
It's the
music.
yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like maybe like 4 bars, 2 bars. You might be able to tell me, Garrison.
Can we start putting the Yoko scream in movies?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to sing Elvis. What's that Elvis song that uses this?
A little less conversation, a little more
less
action.
yeah.
Remixed by David Holmes.
Moby? No.
Maybe Moby. I'm sure
like-
Moby's used that.
No, Moby has definitely used that. That's also
The credit
yeah.
sequence of The Parent Trap or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, literally everywhere.
I mean, the '90s really that's all they were living with.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's a great drum piece. I mean, all right, here's the last one, and arguably
This is the last one.
My
Oh,
favorite.
Winner takes all?
winner
Yep,
takes
true.
a shirt 100 times or nothing.
Japandroids.
This is Japandroids. It's the silence before the album begins.
Ooh. Is there anything better than Pussy, a really good book by Bo Burnham?
Pussy.
Oh my god. Whoa. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's pretty insane that you got
pretty
that.
good
off
that you got that. That is.
Guys, we're on the internet too much.
That's crazy.
I was on
Holy
Vine
cow.
like nobody's business. I watched Bo Burnham's What like nobody's business.
Sarah, I'm so glad you got
Oh,
it so
thank
fast.
Christ.
You actually win for that. Sorry,
Yeah, you
Dan.
do.
Yeah, that was amazing. Cheers.
Cheers again.
To Bo Burnham.
To Bo Burnham, to Good Pussy and Good Books.
And go books.
Yeah, they're both good.
I wouldn't know. I've not indulged in either of those.
Never a book.
Never, yeah, I've never read
Clean take.
Can't relate.
Thank you guys so much for playing Historical Moment in Music or Hysterical Meme to me.
That was a great game.
Uh,
That
That
was
was fun.
amazing.
Yeah.
Let's take a break, turn some lights on, and also I'd like to go pee pee in the potty.
Okay, girl.
Gorgeous.
Great Titus Andronicus reference.
My God. So peek behind the curtain. We've just been talking for, I don't know,
We
what,
just
like
did the
20
show
minutes?
for like 20 minutes
Yeah.
and
No,
not
no, no.
recorded it.
We just talked like people who like each other.
Yeah.
We just talked like for fun. And then we started talking about like, album stuff. And I was like, okay, we should start recording.
Yeah.
Because like maybe this is content.
Yeah, our lives are content.
Sorry, as an industry
Is
professional.
this a meme or a moment?
Well, this is going to be a moment.
It's always a moment
It's
when
a
I'm on
moment.
album reviews.
So true, Dan.
Damn,
I was
such a
just
suck
thinking
up.
this whole time how good your voice is on air. I'm like, oh, I gotta get Dan on more.
I'm here anytime.
Third time on the feed. We got to get Dan on more.
Yeah.
It's like saying we need to get Cameron on more.
Yeah. We need more Sarah on this podcast.
And that's what I've been
wow.
saying. Market testing is showing it.
So track number 1 is A Night of Wine and Roses, and we're having a night of Malort and Old Styles.
And Ruffles, I
And
guess.
Ruffles. Yeah, we did get Ruffles.
Malort is the roses element of that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. It's floral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Floral.
Tell us about how you guys feel about like the first little bit of this track. This track is the first song.
It opens with fireworks.
Yeah, which is celebratory.
Which is awesome.
If you were doing like a shitty joke that my relatives make, you'd be like, "Oh, is that gunshots or fireworks?" But I believe it's fireworks.
I listened to this podcast about the making of the album, and they talked about how fireworks are like illegal in Canada.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Oh, well, and in Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. Chicago, Japandroids' favorite city.
I'm just gonna pretend the whole album is
yeah.
about Chicago.
But they recorded that they got some firecrackers somehow.
They're real.
They're real. And they wherever they were recording this, they went out in the back lot and they just threw them out there and recorded it, right?
Stunning.
But then they like slowed it down,
Oh.
which I didn't know until I listened to this thing, because like they sound like just really like thoughtfully exploding fireworks in the distance,
Mhm.
you know,
Aw.
which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's firecrackers and they're slow,
Oh.
which is kind of cool.
So
That is
they're
cool.
like the little TNT guys, like the little
Yeah, I'd imagine
Huh.
Kind of strung up like
They
sausages.
sound like big ones in the sky.
they do.
They do.
They do.
Yeah, I think thematically I'm like immediately transported back
Yeah.
to
Totally.
like a July 4th holiday weekend where I'm drinking with my friends in like a field or something.
To a
Yeah.
celebration.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know, something I realized about fireworks in living in Chicago is that, you know, we grew up in Missouri.
Yeah.
Me and Garrison did. And in Chicago, obviously, they're like illegal.
Right.
In Missouri, it's
Wink.
like fucking anywhere.
Everyone.
Yeah. Whatever you want. We got fucking weapons out here, you know? Like, and me and my buddies, I actually worked at a fireworks tent when I was probably around the same time that this album came out. But
Wow.
in high school. And then one of my best friends from my hometown, Joe, he and his brother were like, they loved fireworks. They worked at the fireworks tent every year, and they did a big display in their neighborhood. Like one where it was like they knocked on all the neighbors' doors and were like, "Hey, it's going down, just so you know." And then everybody bring out the foldable chairs. There was hot dogs involved,
Love.
and that was like July 4th, you know. And that was like July 4th here. It like in Missouri, it was like fucking crazy. In Chicago, no one gives a fuck.
Yeah.
And I made a couple videos. I don't know if you've ever seen these, but I made like for 2013 and 2014, I made like documentary videos of the fireworks show. And in the 2013 one, I used Fire's Highway by Japandroids.
My
Wow.
God.
It's facts.
The
I want to see
lore.
this. Does this exist on the internet?
It does. It's a little embarrassing because it's something I made in high school, but
Oh, yeah.
So cool.
yeah. But this song, I think, like, you know, when I first discovered the album, was like such a hook because I had never heard somebody use the whoa whoa whoas to such a great effect.
They're great. Whoa, whoa, whoas.
And something I think that is present through I mean, obviously it's like a Japandroid signature, which is the whoa whoa whoas, the oh yeah, all right, all that stuff.
Totally.
It's like this one pushes the whoa 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 hook to like so far, you know? Like
Yeah.
for favorite lyric on this, I actually wrote down 2 things, but my first one was whoa, 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 and it just keeps going. You're like, whoa,
Yeah.
you're like, it's so fucking great. Like, like especially for like a band, you know, that I think was writing with the intention of playing to live audiences. It's like, which is something that Damager definitely was trying to do, if you agree.
I do agree.
It was like, I think it maybe does come back from this, you know, this source in a way. I love this song. It's like it's a very strong opening statement. It's got that like really like blazing riff at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's a great opener.
It is.
I think it's cool that you connected so much with the record the first time you heard it when you were in high school.
Yeah.
Right? Like for me, it was definitely when I was an adult. I was able to drink legally, like go out to bars and shit. I think that's like a pretty important part of the record. Like what these experiences you have going out with your friends, like that's what this record was for me. Like something you
Cool.
turn on before you go out and like before you party. But also listen at work and be like, I hate this place. Get me out of here.
Real.
I will probably touch on this many times, but I guess like when I first heard it, as somebody who grew up listening to a lot of like AC/DC and you know big stadium rock music as as a standard. I was talking to friends when I was back in the St. Louis area this past weekend, and I was talking to my friend's dad, and I was like, "So K-She, man, you know what was that about?" And K-She 95 in St. Louis is the radio station that plays real rock radio, you know. And
Yours is in Milwaukee. It's called The Hog.
The
Hog.
Oh, in Kansas City, it was 98.9 The Rock.
Nice.
yeah. And I just feel like, especially in the Midwest, these concepts are like so ingrained in like how we are growing up and like the kinds of music that we're like kind of fed in general, and also like something like School of Rock, you know, which
Yeah.
is the movie that made me want to play guitar. And it's like I think I'm perennially stuck in the moment when he's handing out the CDs and he's like, Dark Side of the Moon, listen to that fucking vocal solo, you know, this was gonna blow the classical music out your butt or whatever. And it's like that is still who I am deep down. And I
Yeah.
think that Japandroids was a band that evoked the grandiosity and the mythology and the passion of like that seminal rock music from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And like I think when I first heard this, it was like, they're making this now,
Totally.
you know, and like this song's hit song like and then fireworks, and he's like, wow, you know, wow, and it's like that's so immediate and so fucking awesome. I like, and I think to this day, I'm just like, no one else was doing this, and I think, you know, making Forever or Else or whatever, like in spirit, it was an attempt to do something similar.
I think that is such a good point, because I think a lot of music, as someone who was unbelievably online and like deeply steeped in the Tumblr of it all in 2012, so much of the music being released around that time can be so like pinpointed to that sonically. And this is a record that definitely feels like pretty evergreen, I would say. So we never touched on background or whatever, but I was not super familiar with Japandroids prior to this episode. I had like a roommate in college who was into them and like probably had the same t-shirt you're wearing. So I probably heard it before. But I again was not super familiar. But this like holds up so well, and you really can't pinpoint a time or place. If you were like, this is 2012 Vancouver, I'd be like, well, this doesn't sound like the 1975.
Yeah.
And that's I think an asset.
Yeah. No, and back to like I didn't have much Japandroids influence before when Dan decided to do this record. But I immediately fell in love with the rock and rollness of it all, but also like the punk influence. They blend it really well.
Yeah.
With like the punk drums and some of the yelling and the woes and
Yeah, I mean it's just two people making all the
yeah.
songs, right? So
It's so huge. It's so big.
yeah, and that was I think the idea behind the band. Really, the approach was to make it as loud and as possible. Act like they're playing to 10,000 people when they're playing to 15.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
also something that
Oh.
has impacted, I think, how Damager performs.
I think so too.
I see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys play as hard as fuck.
yeah. I mean, there's an entertainment factor to all of
Yeah.
it. and
You're
making
playing
it
to the
big.
bus stop across the street.
Exactly. Yeah. Like find the wall at the end of the room and then play beyond that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of quotes about this in like, you know, the articles written about them, but like the ideas of like classic rock tropes with a punk rock ethos.
Sure.
And I think
For
that,
sure.
you know, because clearly Japandroids was never going to play stadiums, you know, like for two guys who, and the, you know, the origin story of like how they like first came to prominence was that they had recorded this very noisy. If you listen to their first record, it's very noisy. It's very DIY. It's a lot more like Husker Du than it is like the Springsteen, AC/DC, this stuff. But it's like clearly they were just trying to play to little clubs in Vancouver, and it's crazy and it's messy. And then that song "Young Hearts Spark Fire," which is on the first record, was picked up by a guy who worked for Pitchfork on MySpace of all places, and wrote about it. And the band was already like, "We should break up." and then they were like, and then Pitchfork covered it and was like, "This song's amazing," and gave them this platform. And they're like, "I guess we can't break up," which is so
Thanks,
crazy.
Pitchfork.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's like Pitchfork also introduced me to the band. You know, it's like Pitchfork played a pivotal role here, which I think.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's like they were never meant to, but they were playing with the energy that they were supposed to. And and I don't know. I feel like that was something that we adopted a lot, especially this year.
There is something kind of admirable about like wearing shoes performance wise that are like maybe a size too big for you,
Yeah.
but eventually like filling them. I think it's I don't know. I hear people like in the industry say this from time to time, but like it can be an asset to be a little bit delusional.
Yeah.
And so
That's good.
A lot of-
We're super delusional.
We are, yeah,
It's
for
great,
sure.
though. It's
A lot of
great.
very successful people are crazy, right?
yeah, but like eventually maybe if you're lucky, if you work hard, I don't know. I don't want to like do a whole bootstraps thing, but like perhaps the delusion will meet the reality at some point.
It's like that meme. Sorry, bring it back to memes where the guy's like mining for diamonds, and then when
Yes!
the guy like turns away and the diamonds are right there.
Yes, absolutely.
So keep gambling. You're like so close.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan sent me a video.
Yeah.
Dan sent me a video this morning. I was like, hey, like I'm preparing, like making sure I know the history of this band a little bit better, because like I really mostly like I know the music and the feeling the music gives me, but not necessarily the history of the band. But he sent me a video of them in Barcelona where they're on like a sailboat.
I watched it.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's hilarious
That's
to me.
hilarious.
Like that is like rock and roll, and there's this girl who meets them in a bikini, and
the
it's like let's go on this
bikiniest
boat.
bikini.
Yeah, and I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like when you think about them and like it, like they did fill the shoes that they'd sort of created for themselves.
Absolutely.
Well,
So-
and they get off the boat, and the woman goes like, or I think Brian, the singer, goes, I know that this is probably like an everyday thing for you guys, but you know, this is really special for us. And then the woman in the bikini goes, "No, of course it was special for us too. We don't ever, we don't always get to sail with stars." And then he goes, "Well, you didn't today either." And it's like
a little bit.
it's kind of crazy to think about like the concept of like rock stardom in an indie sphere, and I like that was maybe something that was really exciting about those bands that I discovered back in 2012 or whatever. But compared to now, which like another band that I really love that was another big inspiration for us in this past year is Twin Peaks, who are from Chicago, and we went to go see Cadian from Twin Peaks play a show at G-Man recently. That's actually where I took the Pickle Malort and talked shit to the guy from the other beverage company.
History.
And I was like, dude, I gotta say something. Like, I'm such a big fan. And I just went up and I was like, hey man, like your music means a lot to me. Like, you're super sick. I really like this project, whatever. And I was like, you're a legend, man. And he goes, no man, you're a legend. And then it was like a handshake. And I was like, I said, I'm just a guy. And he goes, I'm just a guy.
Wow.
And then like a week later, I went to the guitar repair shop and he was working there. And I was like, dude,
He's
just a guy.
he is just a guy. and it's like, that isn't that like, it's
Well,
like,
that's the other thing is like fucking again, this was like someone on the internet, but they were like fucking your favorite whoever like takes a shit in the morning.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're all
Everyone
just
puts
guys.
their shoes on one foot at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried doing both? You can't.
I have tried doing both.
You get some slip-ons, maybe.
Yeah, in a clog, perhaps. I have one more question about this opener before we move on to the next song. And this is for you, Dan. The song is based on a film.
So the title, from what Genius.com says, was inspired from an LA psychedelic band called the Dream Syndicate, who had an album called The Days of Wine and Roses, which they took it from a movie from
A 1962 film.
Yes, with Jack Lemmon,
Days of Wine and Roses.
which was adapted from a TV show.
Wow. There's layers here.
That was written by the same guy.
Rip it and grip it.
And guess what? That title of that was taken from an 1896 poem
Oh, fuck. You did more research than me.
Wow.
called Vitae Summa Brevis by Ernest Dowson. I'm going to read you the poem. It's very short.
Yes.
They are not long, the weeping and the laughter, love and desire and hate. I think they have no portion in us after we pass the gate. They are not long, the days of wine and roses. Out of a misty dream, our path emerges for a while, then closes within a dream. So I think
Wow.
that's kind of like a Carpe Diem kind of situation.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that the Days of Wine and Roses, the play and the movie, or the TV show and the movie, are about alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a song about getting fucked
You
up.
think Japandroids has read that poem?
Well, he said it was inspired by the band that took the name from the
Sure,
movie, and it's
sure.
From the poem.
I only went the movie.
Where did the
way.
guy get the poem from? I want to go one layer deeper.
Yeah.
Oh,
Personal experience.
I think that's God.
Wow, that's true creativity.
I like to think that they're well read enough to maybe have known that. It's just
Totally.
like this was like passing.
Well, this
thing.
Yeah.
one, yeah.
I mean, like Titus Andronicus knew all the like Shakespearean lore and stuff, and like
Right.
Mhm.
That is true.
With the intention of seeming smart, as we established.
Yeah.
You know?
With that, shall we move on to track number 2?
Yeah, Fire's Highway.
Fire's Highway.
It's so it's funny you do that because the chord progression is almost free falling.
But it's not Rascal Flats.
Rascal Flatts now touring.
Like, can we
For
play
real?
can we play the intro and then play free falling back to back?
Yes.
Happily. Oh, it totally is.
'Cause I'm free.
She's a good girl.
Yeah. So rock and roll though.
Yeah.
Okay, now play Tom Petty.
Am I imagining or like it's there, right?
Perhaps not 100%, perhaps not 100%, but quite similar.
Well, as someone who's learned both of these songs at different times, I think that a lot of the guitar work is pretty simple.
Uh-huh.
Or
Yeah.
like, actually, there was a couple articles I was reading today that really exposed it, which is, I mean, he plays because there's no bass in the band. Apologies to the bassist in the room.
That's okay.
There's no bass in the
So
band,
brave.
so like he has this really thick, dense guitar tone.
Uh-huh.
And what he tends to do is play rhythm guitar and then add like little
Little things on
sparkles
top.
of things that on top that like play like lead parts. And I think that that's taken from all kinds of different classic rock things. And yeah, Free Fallin', like all their songs kind of have like G, C, D, E minor
Yeah.
progressions.
He's playing them pretty open too. So like a
Yeah.
lot of open strings where it's like ringing out both on like the low end of like the low E string, but also like the high E.
Yeah,
So you get like a lot of that like ringing noise. It's really cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
And that's something I have stolen many times.
Yes, and you just add a bunch of distortion on top of it, and it sounds freaking
Yeah.
huge.
Well,
like,
and his
that's where
right-
the arena.
His
rocks
right
from.
hand's like going the whole time too. Like he's keeping the rhythm and like
Yeah.
filling the space so much. It's so loud.
Yeah, musically, I mean, the gutar never really stops. Like, there's really not
Oh.
a point where there's like it drops out. So like he's filling so much space. It's really cool.
Must have got
Yeah.
carpal tunnel. God damn. I would love to talk about some of the lyricism on this
Yeah,
album.
That's a great one for
I am not super familiar with the first album, but my understanding is that there was kind of a jump in lyricism, in perhaps leaning a bit more poetic, a bit more eloquent in lyrics on this record. And I think this was the first song where I kind of started to notice it, because I really loved the sentiment on this song of sort of this like lightning in a bottle kind of one night stand, southern girl in a northern land. Not to like make a fucking soliloquy, but
That was great.
thank you. There were so many lines on this record, and I'll bring them up when I have them, but that almost felt like Shakespearean.
Totally.
Listening.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, work.
Yeah, instead of
Not
saying
what I
something,
expected.
instead of saying something the simple way, they say it the poetic way. And that's like throughout the
Absolutely.
entire record.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like
yeah.
my favorite thing about them, honestly.
It's great.
No, I think that's definitely like I see that reflected in Dan's songwriting too. Like,
yeah.
Like, I think I've tried to figure out the roots of all of it, but I think Bob Dylan was probably the first guy to like take quote unquote rock songwriting and make it poetic.
Mhm.
And it has a lot of these things of like, you can take a simple concept or even like, base human emotions and make them very important and elevated by giving them more thought,
Yeah.
and craft. And I think that like, the funny thing is like so many Japandroid songs are about like sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Exactly.
but they can be specific and descriptive in ways that are more attributed to like poetry. And like a note that I made, but again, this is like one of my favorite things about this band is that like the lyrics can go from like heaven and hell and blood and lust and like restlessness and romance, and it's all very high stakes and it's very cinematic.
Mm-hmm.
And there was stuff in that article that Ian Cohen wrote about their breakup that was like, no one lives these lives,
Right.
necessarily, including Japandroids, even though they kind of got like stuck in that. But here's a quote from Brian King, this lyricist and singer guitarist. He says, "People have always alluded to those extremes as a way of characterizing the most intense feelings since blues and the early days of rock music. A blues singer won't be like, 'We broke up.' He'll say, 'Satan stole my baby from me.'"
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Wow.
And it's like, that's so true. And that's so like, it's so important to the concept of rock music, I think, like because, also like all of the major rock music comes from blues. And like, it's, I don't know. I find that to be so affirming in a sort of escapist way.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like, it doesn't mean that your experiences aren't true when you like connect with them. It's just, there's another quote that I want to pull up. I'm not going to find it.
No, while you're looking, I think that's what makes it so much fun. Like in your early 20s, you're listening to this record and it's saying stuff about like love and craziness, and you're going out drinking with your friends, like, and it's going to be the most wild night of your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what you're looking for. That's the intensity and the adrenaline that you want. And it's just so much fun to turn that on. And even now, like to like, I don't know, recapture that in a bottle of a record is such an amazing, beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And it lends such a sort of, I don't often love this phrase, but like quote unquote main character energy.
Oh, 100%. No,
Sort of
110%.
yeah.
Soundtrack to
That's
your
the
life.
entire
Yeah,
record.
totally.
It is-
Soundtrack to your life and sort of like your life as the hero's journey, sort of.
It might be fantasy, like it might be fantastical, but it's
Right.
like, I don't know, we all want to be that, right? We all deserve that.
And fantasy
level of-
based in reality. Perhaps it's not like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but it's like fornication, imbibing, and lootsmanship. Like,
Lootsmanship.
yeah, like it's dressed up. And
Yeah.
I don't think there's, I don't know, it adds some really nice color to it.
Yeah, it makes it feel important.
Yes.
Because if it's not
Ah.
important, then it's kind of sad.
Exactly. Exactly.
So here's the Ian Cohen.
Bringing it back down.
Here's some quotes from Ian Cohen. "I 100% agree that celebration rock is a work of fantasy, even fan service. King admitted that he put himself in the position of a ticket buyer when writing the lyrics, asking himself, what would I want to scream back at me? And then Brian King taps into something volatile and vulnerable. I'm talking about the night you felt that way. That one time," he explained. "Just about every second of this album hits that sore spot from multiple angles. The lifelong pursuit of trying to put words to that indescribable feeling, and also the fear that it was really just that one time."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's heavy.
Yeah,
And
as someone who writes lyrics, how does that hit you?
I'm like, that's amazing. I mean, I guess like writing lyrics in the context that I do for Damager, and where there is a lot of inspiration from Japandroids, frequently it will take just like one, like a night or an experience, a situation, and I will extrapolate like, I don't know, one little piece of vulnerable thing and then build like kind of a narrative around it.
Like I think about like 8 Bus Fiasco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's actually a great example because
Sorry, not
Yeah.
fangirling, but
Bike Lane Rock, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 8 Bus Fiasco is funny because it's like it is rooted in a real thing, which
Yeah.
I don't know if no, that song wouldn't have been out the last time we did this, but do you want to explain a little bit?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. But like that was kind of written with this experience of like Garrison and I at this time, it was just like a few years ago, and we were going to go play a show, and it was like very early for us, and Garrison's car was parked in Lincoln Park in a parking garage, and we had to get down there, and we're like starting to get late for the show, and then like we were standing in the snow waiting for a bus that just kept not coming, and it was just this frustration that was also maybe a little symbolic of just like the general feeling of living in Chicago and like being, not having agency to get yourself around when you don't have a car. And then like I kind of expanded that into like a greater story about living as a rock and roll band, maybe.
Yeah.
But like it comes from that nut of a real thing that happened, and like the feelings kind of grow from there. But
Yeah. Well, actually, to that point, I did write an email to the CTA,
Yes, yeah.
an angry email, and the headline was 8 Bus Fiasco.
Is that where the song
Lord.
title came from?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
What is the 8? Is that the Halstead?
yes.
Okay.
That's
And-
so great. I'm so glad we learned that just now.
But like as another example, like what happened recently that Queen of Hearts, which was the second single from our album Forever or Else. Somebody recently, I'm not going to get like really in the nitty-gritty on like cuz that's inspired by a lot of things, but like somebody recently that I went to high school with responded to like me posting this on Instagram and was like, "Is this about name not included?" And I was like, "What? No."
Oh.
And it was like, I think it's weird, like
Yeah.
it's like I had to be like, no, I wasn't writing about any one person or experience, but a lot of experiences that kind of
Yeah.
came together and like formed like little lines here and there, and like a lot of times I'll start a song with just one little couplet,
Mhm.
and then it's like, oh, I see how the beginning and end of this happened, and this is the middle, right? And so like I think that approach as a songwriter via the Japandroids work ethic is like, yeah, of course there's like little things in there that are true
Yes.
and authentic to yourself. And then you just, the art is creating the, the poetic qualities of it. Right.
Totally.
So
Yeah, the expanding on it in a way. that
Yeah.
Connects with yourself in a way, connects with others in a way. Like that quote you said about like, what would the ticket buyer scream back at me?
yeah.
Sure.
Like,
Yes.
oh man,
That's
what
a
a
good
way
point.
to write a song.
Which I know was a huge part, or what I've read, was that it was a big part of the writing and recording of this record was sort of like trying to channel the live experience.
Yeah. Because it's so loud.
Yeah.
Because loud.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
loud and fun and fast and rock and roll.
Can we hear a little of this one? Can we
Yeah.
play the bridge at 220 and then just let it ride a little? Just like this one's such an anthem.
Oh yeah.
I'd love nothing more.
Yeah.
Zach, I just clicked exactly on 220.
Whoa, meant to be.
Meant to be.
Episode
Cosmo.
100.
I mean, the pit is open.
It is open.
The pit is wide open at this point.
I would almost like equate it to like in a weird way to like funk guitar, where he's just going and he's on it. The right
Yeah.
hand is there.
Yeah.
It is loose. That's true. You're probably wondering, listeners at home, are probably wondering, how are they playing 3 guitar parts live? They aren't, because like there's just so much stuff being stacked onto each other.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
absolutely massive. But I think that's the beauty of actually like
Yeah,
them
when-
taking something.
Have you guys seen him live?
Have you? No. Yeah. I guess we never will.
wow.
Yeah.
We never will.
Unless.
Because
Unless. Yeah. Probably
They
not.
tour the new record.
I mean,
No,
they named a song Chicago. Come to Chicago.
Yeah.
I know. That's
yeah,
what I
just do a
expected.
one-off.
Unfortunately, yeah, it seems pretty definitive.
I do think,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. That Stereogum article was just so beautiful. It'd be hard to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, and that particular part is really funny because it's like it is like what I was talking about with like like the high parts happening in the higher strings and the low parts are playing a rhythm thing, and then he like his main trick, which is something that I do all the time, which is it's going up an octave, and you're just like here we go, and it pushes it beyond the point that you think it's gonna go. It's not unlike the whoa whoa whoas in the first song. It's
Yeah.
like he keeps going, and it's just relentless. It's like it's so pure. I love it.
Yeah, I do love how the second guitar comes in and it's just like playing the same chord the whole time. It's droning. Like
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
just like building this giant landscape of music. It's really, really, really cool.
It's so danceable. It's so fun.
Yeah.
My lyric for this one that I really like is she'll kiss away your gypsy fears and turn some restless nights to restless years.
Wow.
Is
Some
it the black and
restless
white music
nights.
video that's this song?
No, that's House That Heaven Built.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
I just like, yeah. I think for me, like I've always listened to this record like all at the same time. Like
Yeah.
I've never like just picked out a song. It's like you put the whole thing freaking
Put the
on.
whole thing,
and you,
yeah.
like, you enjoy the entire spectacle.
It's a
of it.
38-minute experience. You
Yeah.
have to do from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But Dan, that's a great couplet. Like it invokes so much with like less than 16 words, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do that very well.
Yeah.
Well, that song made me want to sway in an evil way. Let's go to track number 3.
That's great. Do you mind if I use the restroom? Quick?
Yeah.
I would not mind at all.
So when I was looking at the Genius.com lyrics for everything, I noticed that on Celebration Rock, every one of them had a note on it that was like, the explanation of what the whole song is.
Yeah.
And a couple of them were like clearly left by a hater.
Oh no!
Oh.
Either a hater or just like a 12-year-old.
Uh-huh.
In a funny way, or you'll tell us?
I'm going to tell you. So here's the one for Fire's Highway. It says, the story of a spontaneous relationship started simply from a woman's personality. How beautiful, period. And I'm like reading that like, are you mad?
Like, do you even like this song?
Yeah,
Are you going through something right now, bud?
It was how beautiful, period. Like, not like how beautiful.
Well, okay,
You think it was like the song sucks? How beautiful.
let's hold up a microscope to that. A relationship started by personality.
Yeah.
Is that not a relationship?
Yes.
Like, is that not just relationships?
If there's no personality, then like you're just like talking to a wall.
Well, then you're just. Oh, I was about to say something stupid. Well, then you're talking to a wall. I was about to say, then that's just Love is Blind. But the whole thing on Love is Blind is
Is that
it's
that's
about
just the
personality.
personality?
Yeah. Then it's, I don't know, too
That's
hot
so
to
funny.
handle or
Yeah,
whatever other
I did
shitty
find a lot
Netflix
of the
show.
genius annotations for this not helpful.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Which is a shame. We should like do genius annotations right after we do the show.
Yeah, frankly.
Which
Have
is
a
just-
couple drinks and go on genius.com. I love it.
and just fix them all.
But they all just say how beautiful, period.
Going on genius.com and going, well, actually.
Well, actually,
That sounds great.
Um,
That sounds evil.
like an evil sway.
Evil's sway, not evil's way.
Do you want to know what the genius hater said about this one?
Yeah,
tell us
clue me
more.
in.
Yeah.
Same person.
I would assume.
Oh boy.
Can we dox them?
It
No.
says literally a song all about lust.
That's it.
That's what it said.
This person was just angry.
Yeah.
They're like,
Guys,
this
widowy?
album rocks way too fucking hard.
Does this person not like songs about just being kind of horny?
It's allowed.
I sure do.
They're saying it's not allowed. It's allowed now.
Yeah,
It's
you-
allowed
Ringo Starr said
now.
that.
That's crazy.
Ringo Starr said that. God bless him for
Are there
it.
any Damager songs about lust? I don't think
I
so.
don't think so. Not
Yeah.
yet.
Oh.
What? Never mind.
Listen to the album.
Listen
Find
to
out
the album.
the truth.
Find out the truth.
Yeah, this one was horny. My note said horny in all caps and poetic.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read some
Horny
lyrics
and
from
smart.
this song, but I'm gonna try to deliver it in sort of a I don't know, a monologue sense. So come and find me in this moment and expose a passionate man for what he is. We'll cut loose our gold because we need fire and only kindling can buy it. Wildness is our treasure, so boldly surrender to me and to the night. Excuse me?
Creature of the night. I'm sorry.
That actually, that actually is amazing poetry.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
What light through yonder window breaks? Like, my God.
Yeah.
It's so gorgeous. And it is delivered in this very like rock and roll context. But when I was looking at the lyrics, I just had to take a moment.
Yeah. You ever been so horny you write a rock and roll song about it?
You ever been so
No.
horny? You write poetry.
You write poetry.
Never mind.
Is your answer yes?
Yeah.
And then he goes,
Heck yeah.
I
Oh,
won't-
yeah.
I won't
Oh, yeah.
reveal my notes app, but my God, oh yeah.
Yeah, there's always like a crowd response part to all these
"Oh
songs.
yeah, all right." So apparently, in the making of podcast that David Prowse participated in, they said this one was originally meant to be the first single.
Oh.
I
Which
see that.
I think that's crazy talk. I mean,
Oh.
ultimately, like I love the song, not to disparage the song, but like obviously the single comes later. We know which song is the single,
Mhm.
but I think that's kind of wild. I mean, like this one and Adrenaline Night Shift, I feel like are the other like, and Nights of Wine and Roses are like all three like unattainable bangers.
Mhm.
Again, on lyrics, I do think that the title. I think they said this also in that same podcast that the title is a reference to the Rolling Stones song "Sway,"
Oh.
because it's just the demon life has got me in its sway, and I feel like evil sway.
And they
Interesting.
put on
That
a
wouldn't
cape,
track.
and they were
Yeah.
like, "Now I'm evil sway."
I'm evil
Well, they
sway,
got a little mustache.
Like
now they're
like
now they're
Sway
Bowser.
the DJ / radio guy. You know what I'm talking
yeah.
about? Evil sway.
Was it so there's no play on words here? It's not evil's way. It was like intentionally evil sway because of the Rolling Stones song.
I think so. The chorus, I think, is I'm on the lash. I'm lashing out. It's evil sway tonight. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I looked at that and I was like, what does on the lash mean? And I'm like, is that just like a kind of British way of saying I'm lashing out? I'm on the lash?
I feel like
Yeah.
like going crazy.
Yeah.
Doing it.
Yeah.
The lyric that I wrote down, which I like, your lyric was a very, very poetic, romantic way of putting horny stuff. This one, a candle's pulse is no companion when all you see is sexual red. You burn away your dreams inside a journal and leave those primal words unsaid.
Wow.
It's good.
He's
Except
trying
for
to
these,
fuck.
except for these
Yeah.
primal words, he said all these ones.
Oh yeah, he did.
He did.
Yeah, that's wild. Such a good song.
Great song.
It is.
I want to talk about these chords at 320. Let's play them first, and then we'll.
I would love nothing more.
Fuck, dude. That makes you feel something.
Yeah.
And it's such like live show energy.
Yeah, it breathes. It breathes
Yeah.
like a live show.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love this record.
Yeah.
Pen is open.
so
Pen is
freaking good.
open.
I was listening to that thinking, man, we should steal this.
Again, with like the droney guitar, like there's one guitar just kind of like freaking like
just
losing its
feedbacking.
mind. Yeah, it's so
Just some
cool.
P90s wide open. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody wants to be singing those freaking lyrics. Like
Yes.
you feel it. Yeah, it's cool.
Do you, as a band, have a list of like potential cover songs? Is that an internal document?
We've never covered Japandroids. That'd be fucking awesome.
That'd be so sick.
No, we can't.
Pourquoi?
Because there's no bass in it.
You could add a little bit of bass.
Pit
You
him.
could figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you
Yeah.
that every time, like almost every time that I practice at home and I'm just playing to myself, I will play The House That Heaven Built
nice.
by myself.
Well, we had this song called Heaven going, which was definitely like,
Yeah, I'm not gonna. Well, actually, I took that word from I think it was Jack Kerouac,
but even like despite any of the lyrics or what the song is about, like the feeling is
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
right? Like
oh
and,
yeah,
yeah. That was so much fun.
all right. Actually, the only time we've done a whoa 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 is 8 Bus Fiasco, I think.
That's true. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
it's-
interesting. I feel like the our earlier stuff maybe had a lot of Japandroids influence. Some of the newer stuff still has that, but it's also like a little bit more of everything else.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like the way that they treat his vocals.
Definitely. Yeah, best team in baseball.
Yeah, who was
Yeah.
doing that? Weird.
Oh, never seen it before.
Thank you.
We'll never see it again.
Well, speaking of cool covers
Wink.
you guys might do, maybe at like a next time we do a Halloween show, let's talk about this track, number 4, for Love Ivy, which is also a cover.
Oh yeah,
This is like a punk cover,
yeah. Freaking.
but they like stripped it down a little maybe.
By the Gun Club.
As a gun club.
They
Oh,
keep
I love
it
the
pretty
Gun Club.
punky though.
Damn.
Still feels
I didn't hear the
punky.
Gun Club until very recently, actually, for the first time. And I was like, damn, it's like cowpunk sort of.
Yeah.
And, oh man, it's so fucking cool.
Oh,
You should
that's
look-
what they called me in high school.
You- Cowpunk? They called you Cowpunk or they called you the Gun Club? That's scary. That's scary.
Yeah.
Both are
totally.
bad.
I grew up in Wisconsin. Take your pick.
Both.
They I didn't, from like having listened to this album for almost 11 years now, I hadn't, or almost 12 now, I guess. I had no idea that it was a cover until a year or two ago.
I didn't know
probably.
until just now.
Yeah.
Dang.
But honestly, I love the Gun Club too, so I actually had no idea.
It's a
I
great
didn't put it
Cover
together.
pick because it feels so cohesive to the rest of the tracks.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh yeah,
Um,
wouldn't think.
Like the lyrics and the way they do it. I do love like the punk drum beat that they do on it.
I also loved
thanks.
the first verse where they rhyme hell with hell with hell with hell. I think that's genius songwriting.
Yeah.
Unironically, like I think that's fun.
So yeah, it's cohesive in the track list, but it's also kind of it's a little more dark. It's a little more like
Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
The Gun Club song, and I was looking at it a little bit. People say that this is either about getting a heroin fix, as in for the love of IV, or it's about Poison Ivy, who was in the Cramps, who were a contemporary of the Gun Club.
Oh.
Not from Batman Begins.
No.
Or
That
Batman
is
Returns.
where my brain went. I was like, Harley Quinn's lesbian lover.
Yeah, go to
Poison
Ivy.
Ivy.
Poison Ivy.
Yeah.
In the making of podcast, they talked about how they did this one, and that first of all, I guess both this song and Younger Us are not from like any particular Celebration Rock sessions. They had actually only mustered up the other six songs, and were like, we need 2 more at least. And then they were like, well, we have this For the Love of Ivy cover from when we were just doing covers. They used to do singles and like do like a weird cover on the B-side, and this was one of them. And Younger Us was released like 2 years before Celebration Rock, apparently. And they've got a little slight different like recording quality if you like really listen to it. But
Yeah, that's pretty.
they talked about how they did the vocals for this, and that I guess Brian, who I think you can hear it a little bit, and especially if you listen to them a lot, that he kind of doesn't like he doesn't always have a ton of confidence in his singing, and he does a lot of yelling.
Yeah.
And especially if you listen to their live stuff and see their live videos, like it kind of varies on if he can like really hit all the notes that he aspires to, which I really relate to. But he for this one, they were like, man, you got to go crazy for this one. You know, the original song is so wild. You know, I forget the guy's name who's in the Gun Club, but he was a really crazy dude. And so what they did were like, all right, we're going to send you to the live room. Here's an SM58, shout out. And
What?
Is that what you're using, Sarah?
It is a 50. Oh my God,
recreating it. Sent him into the live room with a bottle of Jack Daniels and the microphone and just he just ripped it.
He just got it done.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love it.
That's rock and roll.
I kind of
Yeah, you gotta
want
walk
to. I
in
kind of want to hear some of the vocals now with that context.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You look just like an Elvis from
Gotta slap back on the reverb.
You have to.
My heart is broken and I go to hell.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see the bottle of Jack just yelling.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's recording vocals in a studio setting, which was new to me, and making this album
Mhm.
was very stressful. Everybody's looking at you and listening to you, and you're like, I don't know if I can do this, especially if you're me, who's only ever recorded vocals in his apartment, you know, and is like kind of like trying to not disturb any of the neighbors. And it was like, and then you're like, we got to really let loose on this. It's like, I can just imagine like, you know, what he did on that and that situation and being like, that's great. That's so smart.
Yeah. Do you feel in that moment like, oh God, guys, I don't know, like I'll give it my best shot? Or is it kind of a diva moment in that moment?
It is, but it's also, it depends on like if you're confident in what you're doing, I guess, which
Sure.
was totally new for me. So there were a couple of songs where like, it's perfectly in my range. And I know just like, I got in
Yeah.
it and it was cool and I had a great time. And then there were like the couple songs where it was like, I don't know exactly what I'm doing here. And God bless Adam White, who is like, has this amazing ear, who like guided me through a lot of like, some of the more singing parts on the
course.
album.
Our drummer.
Our drummer, Adam White, yeah. If you don't already know, the legend.
Yeah, you have to know.
They know.
They know. And then yeah, like some of the yelling parts, like if it's in my if it's in my range, it's like the best feeling ever. And then like there are other parts where I'm like, I really gotta fucking
Yeah.
and, you know. So
Stand on my tiptoes to get to this one.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I just
Yeah.
love that little tidbit about this song.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
one credit to you on our new record is that you definitely like yelled. It was guttural versus like, you know, like you could tell some stuff was made in your apartment versus this one was like you were like right in
Yeah.
the fucking mic.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
When we talked
Sound
about Cage the Elephant, what was the record? Do you remember? It wasn't
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday! Thank you. Happy birthday. Some of his vocal takes are just like yelling and loud, just letting loose.
Oh
but
yeah,
they're
because
not.
it sounded like he was in a corner.
Yeah, but they're not perfect. But they make you feel
Yes.
something.
Yeah.
And so there's something to be said about that, like vocal take, like bottle of Jack, just gonna yell. It's a little out of my range, but
Totally. Same thing with Titus Andronicus. Like,
Yeah.
you know, not necessarily the greatest singer ever, you know, like not Sinatra or anything, but
No,
like he ripped it.
Yeah, I think that definitely like is people just listen to Titus, they're like kind of turned off by
Yeah.
the fact that's like, oh, what is this? You know, but then you get into it and you're like, oh, you start to feel the
Yeah.
emotion of the
Mhm.
lyricism and the
start to
delivery.
feel the adrenaline.
Yeah.
Maybe you're at a night shift.
Oh, are you
Which
gonna
is
next
probably not
song?
a great time to have adrenaline if you think about it. Like, you ever work a night shift somewhere, you want it to be chill.
What is this? My early 20s? Adrenaline at night?
Nah, man.
What is this? A panic disorder? Anyway, Adrenaline Night Shift, track number 5. Fun.
Yeah.
That's my commentary.
Kind of waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, it was. This was Garrison, your intro poll,
Oh,
where
yes.
like I'll be sitting at the back of the bar, drunk and sad, or
Yeah.
whatever the lyric is.
Songs about drinking hit very hard.
Hitchhike to Hell and
Of
Back would have been a
course.
good intro for one of us.
Oh, nice.
That's a great first line to
Yeah.
a song. Like,
Yeah.
you know exactly what the song's about
Absolutely.
when you hear that.
Again, he invokes hell. Hell and heaven come up a lot. And it's like, I think as someone who's raised Catholic, it just has this impulse in you.
Oh,
You know?
you just feel a little guilt right away.
Not guilt. I just feel like it just feels elevated. It just feels
Yeah.
like big. It feels important.
Grandiose,
I
yeah.
think I've always responded to that.
It's very rock and roll.
It is.
Yeah.
You go back to Robert Johnson, maybe the first rock and roller,
Yeah.
and he
Sold
had
the soul to the devil.
Hellhounds on My Trail.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were gonna say Kiss. God gave rock and roll.
Sorry, Kiss, the
Kiss.
first rock band.
First true rock.
And how God gave rock and roll to you.
Of course.
I think so. This is track 5, and I feel like it begins the second side.
Mhm.
And I do think the second side is more contemplative.
Contemplative.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And more reflective. And this one is kind of interesting because although it sounds, again, like a huge anthem, much like Fire's Highway and House That Heaven Built, there's a couple lyrics that I feel like kind of point to maybe something a little tragic.
Send them down the line.
Well, here's one that's not, but I love it. When a red-blooded daughter slowed my gunfire run to rest with her blitzkrieg love and a Roman candle kiss. That's great.
Firework analogy.
More
Love.
fireworks, more fire, more love. But I wrote, is this song about failing to capture the celebration?
Totally.
Still waiting for a generation's bonfire to begin. When I muscle up some money, I'll rattle the saber of the streets, because death got no respect for love and youth got no respect for me.
Great lines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is in this track some sort of simultaneous, like, I'm waiting for it all and I'll be there when it happens, but also kind of it happening at the same time. The blitzkrieg kiss
Yeah.
and all of that. It's funky. And it makes me wonder about sort of the storytelling here. It's like, what's the POV?
In contrast to the Nights of Wine and Roses, when he says, we don't cry for these nights to arrive, we yell like hell to the heavens,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
This song has a lot of waiting for things in a way that is maybe kind of like that, what Ian Cohen described in that quote I read earlier about, like, it's about longing for that moment, that one time, or maybe it'll never happen, never
Yeah.
happen, or that it'll never be like that one time again. I feel
the
like
flip of the record, the
It's-
dark underbelly.
yeah, but it still sounds like
Oh,
there's no
yeah.
high like this adrenaline night shift.
Yeah.
We fucking let's rock, So
Yeah.
it's a little deceptive. It's a little
Like-
Springsteen in that way.
Like Blitzkrieg love, like invoking like lightning war
yeah.
for your Yeah, that's a great.
Mhm.
Yeah. We're kind of like building up the whole time.
Yeah, 100% for the next firework. I suppose. Oh man, damn.
No spoilers. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
Well, if you were to tell younger us about this record, how would you describe it? I guess, Dan, you were already there. How would you describe this to the rest of us who had never heard this record before?
Never heard Celebration Rock before?
Not when I was younger, no.
Yeah, explain it to me like I'm 5.
Yeah.
Younger,
Shoot, grow up. I don't know. I have no idea. It's visceral,
Mm-hmm.
Uh
relentless.
huh.
Unbridled.
Thank you.
Fucking rock and roll.
And to quote Ian Cohen,
Yes,
Yeah.
Ian, are you listening?
what Celebration Rock does imagine is what would happen if everything we expected from U2 or AC/DC, rock music that blots out every other concern besides transcendence and salvation, or makes getting drunk and rocking out the highest possible calling, was delivered by bands that sounded like Japandroids. I think that is so profound in some ways.
Yeah.
Because, as somebody who really cares about, for better or worse, the history and mythology and culture of rock music, it does kind of become almost this like religious thing in a way. It's like, and this happens like with me and Tommy a lot. It's like we have these reference points of like, oh, Pete Townsend did that, and it's just like then you start to see it in your own lives and like how it affects you. And like Japandroids is that for me in a lot of ways too. And it's like you read this article about like them growing up and growing out of Japandroids, and you start looking at it yourself and you're like, how long can I rock, really? And it's like I don't know. There's the reference points are become spiritual because when it becomes so important to you and it becomes so familiar that it ascends to a level that might as well be religious.
Totally.
And I think that Japandroids is this example of guys who are writing in that tone, in that tongue. And, it's just reflective in this music. And like he said, transcendence and salvation, getting drunk and rocking out, like I can speak for myself and say that I feel that over the past few years of playing music in a fucking sick ass band in some cool bars and going places and doing it, it's like, that's like as great a moment as it feels any time, like that is the salvation. And it's like filtered through this knowledge of all that history. And the Tom Petty and whatever reference it is, Rolling Stones Sway, however it appears, it's like that means something, in some ways.
Yeah,
absolutely. The Damager can crush as communion,
yes,
as the benediction to send you off on your night.
That is such an incredible, amazing.
That is
analogy.
a spiritual moment when you crush the can.
It's the benediction, I swear to God.
You come to the show and you wait the entire fucking time.
Yeah.
You're like, you gonna do it or not?
Get through these fucking songs, man.
I've been sitting and standing and sitting and standing.
But to piggyback on a little of all the wonderful things Dan just said, this part's not gonna be as poetic as Dan just did. But I want to talk about the party aspect of rock and roll.
Yeah.
And when we were kids listening to rock and roll, we weren't partying, obviously.
No.
But it's crazy to think about rock and roll like as this party music, and for these young kids to bring it back in like 2012.
Yeah.
Or like Garrison, when you were listening to it, like you were said, in like 2020, like getting ready to party, and that's super cool. But then to the spiritual aspect of it all is there's this great book, This Is Your Brain on Music, where they take like music back to like prehistory.
Okay.
And they'll find these sites where there's a bonfire, and they'll find like bone flutes and primitive drums, and like the ground around the bonfire is like stomped down more than the ground farther away. So there's like dancing and music. And so like this idea of music and partying and hanging out with people is so primitive and so spiritual.
Yeah.
Even before rock and roll.
It's
Totally.
just this like innate part of the human experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rock and roll isn't just playing 12-bar blues or whatever. Like it is beyond, it is elevated beyond that. I think things like this record kind of like exemplify it, right? I read a book recently by Stephen Hayden, who also contributed to Pitchfork a lot, and along with Ian Cohen, who I've referenced a lot. And Ian Cohen wrote the first that original Pitchfork review of Celebration Rock that like changed my life, obviously.
Yeah.
And wrote, and like at the time, like Ian Cohen, we talk about Garrison as well, has, I think, a similar experience of like Ian Cohen as a name, as a rock writer, like became this guy who he also reviewed Titus and Cloud Nothings and the Pinkerton reissue and just all this stuff that just mattered so much to me at this time in my life. And I was like, this guy fucking gets it. At least there's a guy out there who's like, and I found that Stephen Hayden is very similar. He wrote the Bruce Springsteen Born in the USA book that came out this year, but I picked up one of his books that was called Twilight of the Gods, Journey to the End of Classic Rock. And it had to make a long story short, to make a long story into a shirt.
Into a shart.
Available on our website.
He kind of like created this idea of like what classic rock is over the course of several chapters, about what time it exists in and what the quintessential elements of it are. And towards the end of the book, he brings up Japandroids, and it was like so cool because I was like, I fucking get it. And this might be kind of long, so if it doesn't hit, feel free to cut it. He said, one of my favorite bands of the 2010s is Japandroids, a guitar and drums duo that hails from Vancouver. Japandroids are the ultimate stadium rock crammed into a rock club band. If Jack White had studied Kiss as closely as he poured over Sun House, the White Stripes would have sounded like Japandroids. In 2012, they put out their second LP, Celebration Rock, which was essentially a modern version of an AC/DC album in the best possible way. All the songs are about either drinking too much or driving too fast on the highway, and every chorus is accented with a crazy drum roll, guitar squeals, and about a dozen woes. It's not a complicated formula, but it's deceptively difficult to nail down perfectly. For the two dudes in Japandroids, Brian King and David Prowse, it all stems from an unabashed love of classic rock mythology. For instance, every Japandroids album has exactly 8 tracks, because many of the classic rock albums that they love have 8 songs. Led Zeppelin 4, Black Sabbath's Paranoid, Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run, Patti Smith's Horses, Metallica's Master of Puppets, Damager's Forever or Else. Sorry, that was an addendum.
No, that was in the book. Yeah.
For them, classic rock is a religion that relies heavily upon numerology. In 2017, they followed up Celebration Rock with a relatively grown-up sequel, Near to the Wild Heart of Life. Now, instead of emulating Highway to Hell, Japandroids aspired to the stateliness of Who's Next. The album's best song is Arc of Bar, a 7-minute story about drinking and gambling, but mainly drinking. It is reminiscent musically of Baba O'Reilly and lyrically of Bob Dylan's Lily, Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts. It's the perfect melding of stadium rock aesthetics and classic rock mythology, and you'll never have to stand farther than 50 feet away to experience it. I love stadium rock bands. That type of music that's made to be performed and enjoyed in a massive place like that is just part of my DNA in a way, King told me a few weeks later. I like to think in a way that we've always kind of been a stadium rock band. It's not like Dave and I ever had a conversation when we started and we're like, we want to be a stadium rock and we want to play a stadium someday. I mean, that's obviously ridiculous. A few hours after I interviewed King, I saw Japandroids play an incredible 2-hour show at the Minneapolis Club, First Avenue, a 1,500 capacity venue. The local 18,000 seat basketball arena was across the street. The distance between where Japandroids were playing and where a band like Japandroids might have played in a different era was literally only about 100 feet. Metaphorically, however, those 100 feet seemed insurmountable. We've always been a stadium rock band, King insisted, but we've been writing and performing in a way as if it was a stadium full of people, even though a lot of the times there was only 5 people there. Playing for 5 people like it's an audience of 50,000 people is an ethos that harkens back to Springsteen. Bring your songs home. Play every show like it's your last. Prove it all night. For Bruce, that work ethic paid off in rock superstardom. Is it a betrayal to Springsteen acolytes like Brian King if the path forged by the boss no longer seems viable? Maybe. But as a fan, shrinking the size of rock and roll hasn't reduced my enjoyment of the music. Stadium rock played in actual stadiums isn't all it's cracked up to be. Stadium rock without the stadium part actually seems like an evolutionary improvement. Perhaps the question shouldn't be, why can't a band like Japandroids play stadiums, but rather, how great would it be if Springsteen still played clubs? Sorry, it was pretty long, but cut it up. If you
So
want.
many great points there.
I fuck with it
Yeah.
so hard.
Yeah, because like we saw Green Day at Wrigley.
Yeah.
Which means like I heard like a LaCroix version of Green Day from a mile away.
Yeah, exactly.
So to hear that power, that force of reckoning, like 1,500 capacity is like where it belongs. I feel like
Right.
sometimes.
I think especially being in the DIY music scene where you get to experience like really fresh, really amazing,
Yeah.
new music in small spaces, and it's more profoundly impactful than if somebody dragged me to like a band that I'd never heard of in a giant stadium. And I feel like it has soiled me on big shows.
Totally.
I have seen Springsteen in Wrigley Field, and it was still amazing because he's got it.
Yeah.
Of course.
But yeah, it's like Japandroids, even for like all the cracks that they may have, as a 2-piece band trying to make it work, it's like, I would fucking love it even if they were bad,
Yeah. Well, I need one more beer before we get into this next song because
Yes.
it's such a party song and I want to hear the guitar solo with beer in my hand.
That sounds
Hell
perfect.
yeah.
God,
My God.
I'm so glad I had a fresh beer in my hand for that.
I'm not strong enough on my
Tandem.
left hand.
That is like such a climax of like the record, maybe,
Yeah.
or like kind of just like a nice elevated spot for it for a little bit.
Well, I noticed that there's a lot of crescendos in their music as well as Titus Andronicus,
Uh-huh.
who we've talked about in the pod
course.
previously. Why were you were smirking? Was it because of the
Yeah,
overdubbing?
you were smoking hard.
No, I just love the idea. Like most of the cuts that we've taken of the songs have been the parts where it's just like guitars going absolutely nuts,
Yeah.
which is such like an exclamation point of this entire record.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
totally.
Cool.
It's very dense. This one in particular, like I said, it was, I think, released in 2010. It was released earlier, which is like their Post Nothing album. And I feel like that album is a lot more like raw, more noisy. It's more dense. It's just like, it's got that grit on it.
Got a little stank on it.
Yeah. I love that the density is what's really, I think, their wheelhouse
Yeah.
because of the way that they treat guitar and drums. I think that was a very good example of that.
Yeah, and Garrison, let me know how you feel about this take I have of this record. This is like one of the few records where I've ever like been like one, not upset about it, but actually kind of happy about a lack of a bass player.
Yeah.
I think the no bass player lets the drums shine in a way that's like really crisp and articulate. Like whenever he's doing anything on the toms, you hear every tom. There's nothing competing with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the rhythm guitar / lead guitar is holding enough rhythm where like you're not missing that rhythmic aspect of the bass, and the drums just kind of have a little more free reign. We haven't grabbed any of those clips, but there's a ton of like good fills and.
It's kind of like if you're at a Thanksgiving dinner and you don't have any stuffing, you really appreciate the green bean casserole.
Oh, that's like actually a really great.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I don't think this record is missing anything with not having bass. I will say, well, what kind of strikes me listening to all the parts again is just the amount of guitars and kind of overdubbing. There's no way they were like, oh, we're going to be able to recreate this live. There's only 2 of them. Like, there's no way they can play all those parts the same. There's so much droning going on and like different layers of electric guitar. But I think what's really like maybe somewhat poetic about the performance aspect of it is they don't need that. Like the audience kind of supplies that energy for them at the show, and they were prepared for that, which is I think really, really cool. And something that I think we take home too is you can create something absolutely massive, but if you're only playing like the one part that you really need, everybody else kind of fills in that energy for you if you have the right audience.
Yeah.
And sometimes like you'll still hear like if it's loud enough, like you'll still hear that guitar melody even though it's not there.
Yeah.
Like if you've listened to this record 100 times and you go see it live, like you'll still kind of hear it.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Loud enough. Yeah. Like your brain fills in the missing parts.
It's kind of reminding me because like I think us as a band have kind of been into the Doors lately.
Oh, yeah.
Another
Love
band
Doors.
without a bass. But like
Sure.
Raymond Zarek DePaul graduate.
I didn't know that.
It is true.
Famously.
He like he's not playing a bass guitar, but he has a bass part in it, and I feel like that's similar effect here, where it's like, do you feel enough of it?
Yeah.
But and it's so loud that it's kind of like it's like bridging the space that you're looking for it to be in.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It feels super like full, and I'm constantly a bit flabbergasted and kind of checking myself frequently listening to this record that it's just like a duo. It's 2 people filling my ears with so much sound.
Yeah.
It's really remarkable.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about like the do vocals hardly at all either.
Yeah,
Well, that's a good point.
I don't know where the articles are blending together a little bit, but there is some reflection upon how it's like, yeah, they were just 2 guys who were in Vancouver and they were waiting for. I think they started and they were just making instrumental music, and then they were kind of waiting for someone else to be a vocalist. It's I think this might have been Ian Cohen's like 10-year review, but it was like they were making these songs and like they loved the yeah yeahs.
Oh, nice.
And they were waiting for their Karen O, is what it said. And he's like, but these just ultimately 2 guys that can't sing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But to the point that we already made, it's like, yeah, they got the energy and the belief and everything, so it kind of makes up for
loud and confident. And
Yeah. I mean, if you listen to their live stuff or like go on YouTube and look up a live show, it's definitely super messy, but you don't miss anything that was on the record. Like at no point are you like, oh man, I really missed that guitar part or this thing. It's like, no, the energy is there. It's palpable.
Totally.
Yeah, if you that same one where they get on the boat and they play Primavera Sound, like the vocal is pretty bad.
Yeah, it is.
But like, and I can only imagine that that's in the middle of a world tour. That's he's been having a few too many margaritas or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, like ultimately,
I mean, even that day, I remember in the doc, he's like, "Yeah, I've been drunk and I've been sober and I'm working on drunk number 2 today."
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
which like we watch for like rock and roll. Younger us, I think. So
Us.
I tried to clock what age Brian King was, for this stuff, because I find that more often than not, people are younger than me when they make cool shit, and then I go, oh. He was 27, probably at the release of this song.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah.
I can still make cool shit.
And then he probably would have been 30 when Celebration Rock came out, which actually surprised me quite a bit.
Yeah.
Wow, that is surprising.
Because he's 41 now.
Mm-hmm.
So that would make that math add up. Don't correct me.
Yeah.
I think it's cool, like, that there's in the criticisms of this song, Younger Us, which is a lot of reflection and give me younger us. My favorite lyric being, remember that night you were already in bed, said, fuck it, got up to drink with me instead. So good.
That's only something younger Zach would do.
Right. But it's like, it's almost to the point of like, no one ever did that, right?
No.
No one ever.
Oh, younger Sarah, current Sarah, any Sarah, absolutely never would have done that.
But like
I'm in
as
bed.
symbolic of like, I think no matter how old you are after being even like a teenager, maybe post 21, you do still start to accumulate feelings of sentimentality about being younger at all, let alone like, I just turned 21 or I just turned 21. No, I just
Congratulations! Oh my god!
I just
and you're
turned-
on the podcast.
Yeah,
for your first legal drink.
I just turned 29,
Yes.
and I think about it. I'm like, I feel already like maybe in the mid, of the like, I'm a 10-year veteran in the NFL. Maybe I'm like, I'm still like, like as far as like the Japandroids like idea of being a young person, and you think about like again, like that CD that I pulled out, and like that reminds me of I had all these burned CDs in high school. Me and my buddies drove up to Kansas City and stayed for a few days, and it was like, we're gonna play all these CDs in the car. We weren't even drinking then,
Yeah.
But it was just like, that's younger us,
Totally.
And I think that's kind of interesting to just posit as a 27-year-old,
Yeah, any song that invokes like that little bit of nostalgia, I just fuck with so hard. I'm gonna be 30 next month. I'm just like, yeah, younger us, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just kids. We had that twinkle in our eye. Yeah,
And
a great,
Here we are now.
a great next to last song. What's the fun word I'm looking for? Penultimate.
Penultimate. But the
no, it's not.
I think you're
penultimate
thinking of
song is
penultimate.
It's two more.
House that heaven built.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say something crazy.
say it.
This is the greatest rock song of all time.
This song fucks.
Whoa.
Wait.
Better than
I can't think of another song that I have responded to in this way. In also to clarify, even maybe a little further, like rock song.
Okay.
Like I'm not talking Vampire Weekend. Okay, I'm not talking, the nerds out there. Sorry, Ezra Koenig, you're a nerd.
Absolutely.
No, I'm talking like rock song.
Yeah, like like capital R.
Capital
rock,
R rock song.
no subgenre.
No, just like I think it hits every point necessary. It is out and out, just an incredible roller coaster song. It like look, I went for a run today and I listened to this album.
Okay.
150th run on the
Wow.
100th podcast.
150 miles.
Are you two
Oh,
connected
wow.
on Strava?
We're not on Strava, but I post my Strava every now and then on the Close Friends.
Of
Okay.
course. Okay.
And I feel like, this song pushes like the concept of like fucking rocking out
Yeah.
to its limit. Like
Yeah.
I like it. The ceiling is so high that not only conceptually in the lyrics, but like the way that it's presented aesthetically, it's impenetrable to the point where they cannot perform this song properly because it's he can't do the vocal. It's so incredible. It's so insane. Like it. I don't know. Like to compare it like in the language of that classic rock mythology stuff. It's like, what? Name another song like Stairway to Heaven. I don't know. It's not for me. Not for me.
Back
Wait, I
in
think we
Black,
got it. I think
I don't
we
know. Not hitting scratching the
This
same
is
itch.
This is just Dan speaking for myself. You can.
Yeah.
Well,
No.
this was your intro as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
Garrison,
This
what were
is
you
your
gonna say?
intro.
No, can we
Yeah.
hear some of the song now? I'm dying to
Absolutely.
like
You're hyped?
listen
I want to
to.
hear it in the context of Dan's favorite rock song ever.
Yeah.
When they love you and they will, tell them all their love is my shadow. And if they try to slow you down, tell them all to go to hell. When they love you and they will, tell them all their love is my shadow. And if they try to slow you down, tell them all to go to hell.
Hell yeah, dude. I think You Shook Me All Night Long is number one. This is number two. I'm just kidding.
No, I don't. AC/DC rocks, no doubt. I don't know. Like even just playing it for 20 seconds
It's
on
so
its own,
good.
Yeah.
the like lift I feel in my
Yeah.
chest is there, and I feel like that's fucking rock and roll, man. Like
Yeah.
and to get even like more into the like science of it or whatever, it's like everything that they address in the song, the drama of heaven and hell, life and death. They will love you. They, I'll tell them to go to, like, they will love in my shadow. Like, I'm fucking great. It's like everything, the most elevated, huge, grandiose possible lyric. And then it's got, and that's like, if you feel like you're in a crowd,
Yeah.
you feel like you're in the fucking stadium. And I think it's undeniable,
Hell is such a rock and roll word.
Yeah.
Highway to Hell.
It is all over this record.
Yeah.
That's what you should be counting.
Yeah.
No, I this is from just purely personal, and just like listening to that part of the song. When I initially moved to Chicago, by the time I first heard this song, someone introduced it to me who I worked with, Patrick O'Donnell. Great guy.
Shout out.
He was showing me like so much great music, and this is one of them. Titus Andronicus was one of them. But I was living in an apartment the size of the room that we're sitting in, and I looked out to a brick wall out of my window, and I felt so defeated every day. And I worked for this corporation that was making me do shitty stuff.
Oh no.
And I really felt terrible, but like this record was something really special. It just like takes me immediately back to that feeling of like there's more for me in this. Like and it was such a hopeful thing. And it was also like the going out in the city, like the big city. I'd never lived in a city like Chicago before, and I know Dan, I guess you hadn't really either, but like damn, like listening to this record just takes me back to that time, like the world was my oyster sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's really freaking cool. And I don't think there are many songs or records like that do that for me. Yeah, the lift in your chest, that's super real.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. That's so cool.
I do think hearing this song, I think of this. So I was also in high school when this record came out, and it was not on my radar at all. But I was very in the like, I don't know, the Killers and the Panic at the Disco and the just more, I guess, like mainstream indie rock of it all. I think if this had made its way across my proverbial desk my freshman year of high school, I do think it would have also like deeply affected me. This sort of notion of if they try to hold me down, they can all go to hell.
Yeah.
The sort of there's more for me here notion. It's so kick-ass. It's awesome.
Yeah, what spoke to me on this song was I love the backup vocals on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like them both singing. It's very like Taking Back Sunday, very kind of like that emo post-punk type of like just like two guys yelling about their feelings.
Dudes rock.
Yeah.
Dudes rock.
I haven't heard Taking Back Sunday in so long.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
And that'll be the third Damager
Shout
episode.
Yeah, I mean, again, with the grandiosity of everything. So the lyric I wrote down, and it's the thing that probably sticks with me the most from any lyric on this album, which is, it's a lifeless life with no fixed address to give, but you're not mine to die for anymore, so I must live. It's the whole song is life affirming, right?
Uh-huh.
It's what was Days and Wine and Roses, like we got to live. It's carpe diem, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Robin Williams. And yeah, I don't know, that just means a lot to me, especially with something that I felt like we discovered as a band, or at least, this is my perspective on it, which is we exist in this scene, in this community where a lot of the rock music is pretty much in some way in the lineage of either pop punk or emo.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that there's not a lot of straightforward Midwestern Keishi real rock radio, I guess, and there's not as much stuff that is purely about affirmation and fun and, and it's like, I'm not putting down in any sense, like, people talking about conflict is of course that's in our music too, but or like self-conflict or personality or something. But like, I feel like I was missing this in a way, and I felt that as well as us playing Kiss songs live was this moment where it was like, why don't we try and do that? It was very like, let's find communion with the audience in a way that is the ritual, the stamping around the bonfire,
Yeah.
And I think this is a really good example of that. And to put a cathartic bow on the Japandroids story, they may have never intended to play stadiums, but this song is the entrance music for the Vancouver Canucks. which I think
That
is really
part.
fucking sick.
Which is in a stadium.
Yes.
Yes.
And as a small anecdote related to Damager, my father texted me the other day, and he occasionally works at Busch Stadium in St. Louis for the St. Louis Cardinals. And he said, Evan and Steven, who are two guys that I worked with and on some freelance projects many, many years ago, they really like Say Hannah, and they want to use it in a video montage at Busch Stadium.
Cool.
Now, it's unconfirmed if it happened,
Mhm.
because my dad was like, I was like, hey, did they play Say Hannah at Busch Stadium? And he goes, I don't know. And he was like, it kind of took the last 2 weeks of the season off, so you'd have to, I'd have to ask, those guys. And I'm like, so
Tell me yes or no, Dad.
Also, of course, also it's like this was like a record low attendance year for Busch Stadium, and they're like, man, we gotta fucking throw the whatever.
We're gonna start playing some Damager
Drum
in here.
music,
Get the bodies in the field.
Yeah.
But still, like, to Damager, it's like, this is my Chelsea dagger.
Yes.
Or my house that heaven built. Or
Yeah.
what have you. Like,
So that was a really crazy thought, and I hope it happened in some small way, I suppose. But yeah, like stadium rock being brought to the clubs, baby.
mhm.
Hell yeah. Well, I think we're ready for some thunder, which is also a very rock and roll word.
Thunder.
Like some thunder that just is all the time, continuous.
Thunderstruck.
Could you imagine like if there was actually like zero delay between the thunder, like just how loud that like
Okay.
thunder is usually 1 moment,
Yeah.
but a continuous thunder would just be like a long moment of loud.
Yes.
Which is not what this song is. A long moment of loud. I don't know where I'm going here.
Are you saying? Wait.
Have you seen Twisters?
Are you saying if a loud noise kept going, it would be a loud noise for a long time?
Yeah, that'd be wild. Like if you were just like
Yo.
it was just like raining. It was like bah for like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
That would be terrible.
That would be quite wild.
Garrison really likes Twister.
Yeah, y'all should go see Twisters.
I like Twister.
That was a fun movie.
I love fun
Yeah.
movies. I didn't see it, but
Yeah, I'm a big fan of fun movies.
Yeah.
Fall Guy, also fun movie. Last Plug.
Great one.
okay.
Well, shoot, we gotta do another movie podcast.
I mean,
If only somebody had a movie.
If only we
podcast.
knew someone who did a movie podcast.
it's between you and disgusting horror. I'm like,
They talk about movies. They have some fun.
Yeah, we
Tell
joke
some
around a little bit.
it's just like I'm hanging out with my friends, but our conversations are so real and raw that we just have to set in microphones. It's really something special. It's kind of an uncut look at our lives.
It's kind of a continuous thunder of laughs.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, there you go.
So this is the closer, and it's a love song. I think it's quite lovely. It's kind
all
of
lovely songs
tender.
are love songs.
I mean, when you're opening with "Heart's terrain is never a prairie." Hello,
But you
How
weren't wary.
tender.
You took my hand.
How sweet!
Love song.
How sweet! Yeah, it's really nice.
I like that this one, like all the other songs, like Garrison pointed out earlier, like we've just been like grabbing these big moments of them all, but this one's just kind of like steady the whole time.
Yeah.
Which I think makes for a great closer.
Yeah.
Like it just kind of builds in a way, has beautiful imagery.
You know, like the fist in the air kind of song at the end
Yeah.
of like a
Don't
movie.
you-
Yeah, it's got that.
Yeah,
Totally.
same energy.
Very much 80s movie soundtrack
Yeah.
vibe. I think there's a video on YouTube that is this song, and it's just set to this loop of John Cusack, I think from High Fidelity, walking around in the rain. And I think John Cusack in High Fidelity would love Japandroids, for one. But also, the cold, pissing rain is a lyric on this, so we need to address that.
So to bring it back to the tightest of it all, this is, I think, our first and only piss reference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of pee-pee on this album. The cold pissing rain.
Parents beware.
Well, they're Canadian. I feel like Canadian
Beware.
people are very polite and don't use the word piss very often.
Oh.
So it was edgy. Yeah.
God, I don't think you could say the word "piss" once on the Damager record. We missed.
No, we didn't say piss at all.
Oh, dang.
Take it back.
Our next single is called
Next one.
Piss.
Next one. Get that in there.
We missed an opportunity. We're here to apologize.
I think in following with rock and roll mythology, as we've established that Japandroids follows, I think the soft closer
Yeah.
is very, traditional in a way.
Mhm.
And And I think it still fits in line. Like, you could imagine these lyrics set to like more bombastic chords in the way that the other songs are, but this one is very much like, the lyric that I wrote down that I love so much is, if I had all the answers and you had the body you wanted, would we love with a legendary fire? If you had the body you wanted and I had all the answers, it's like, that's such a trip. It's got a hint of tragedy in it, but it's like, but still we complete each other, if you will.
Totally. It's like, look at these hindrances that we both conquer in our day to day, and what fucking potential awaits us if these didn't exist anymore. Yeah. Wild.
Love song.
Yeah.
Love song. Well, as someone in a long-term relationship, my God.
I think we're okay. Running that, I'm probably off on my own little thing here, but
yeah,
running
give
that
it to
parallel
us.
with the idea of the record being like a stadium rock record, yet they are playing in small clubs. Like, it's this sense of like, it's not as grandiose and as crazy, and we aren't as hot and as awesome as like maybe
Yeah.
we want to be, but there's like this really cool poeticness about it. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah, because you wouldn't see this song at the United Center, perhaps.
I want to.
I would.
want
Yeah.
Oh!
I do think you have to slow down for one. You gotta.
Yeah.
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 There is something about, they in line with what you're saying about how like the image that they present themselves with the lyrics versus who they are as people. There was a part in the like, that conclusive interview where he was like, people think that, we're dudes rock and we're just dudes rocking all the time everywhere,
Right.
but it's like, yeah, we would play a show and you guys all get to go home.
Yeah.
And then we go to the next show and have to pour it out on stage again. And
Mhm.
usually that involves getting loaded or whatever. And
Yeah.
it is taxing. And yeah, it is kind of an interesting contrast. And I never thought about those lyrics that way. I thought it was more about like, in a Springsteen sense of him like writing from the perspective of somebody who's not him. He's doing
Sure.
more of a narrative thing, but turning it around is really interesting too. We have talked about, it's something you told me once, where from the David Byrne book about the space that you play music in, and defines how the music is.
Oh.
And I feel that for me, when I'm trying to write songs, because we play in bars and clubs and local venues so much, I'm very hesitant to write a ballad because I just want to grip your neck the whole fucking time. I want to write a celebration rock album, which the
Yeah.
whole time is fucking relentless
Yeah.
because you cannot look away. And this is kind of a nice foreshadowing to how they developed as people and as artists and as a band, because the next record does have slower songs with synths and acoustic guitars at times. There's backup vocals from their girlfriends from the time.
That's cute.
And it's like, it is kind of funny, again, like in looking at the band's whole arc up until this new album that will be released by the time this podcast is out, which is supposed to be like the ultimate reflective statement about their career and how they've grown as people, to consider that rock and roll is an arc, usually. Or it's a moment and not a meme, It's
it's definitely a moment.
it's a moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I love that this album, if it's encapsulating the whole of that in a way by ending with a song that is more about the romance. He's not just a song literally about lust.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he's not just loud and horny. He's like sentimental and maybe
Yeah.
horny. So
And there's a lot of
Yeah.
like marriage songs on the next album,
wow.
So I think, that's pretty cool.
very
Perhaps
cool.
dudes rock with the weight of sentimentality.
yeah, you can have feelings and be rock and roll.
Dudes rock
Jack Black taught me that.
and dudes feel.
Dudes rock and dudes feel.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we've made our way through this incredible album. Let's take a moment off air to talk about the freaking 100th Rubrewski.
Oh my god. No pressure.
No pressure. And we'll come back and award that real quick.
And the Rubrewski for Dudes Rock goes to Celebration Rock by Japandroids. But wait, there's more. An additional Rubrewski must be awarded for the Podcast That Heaven Built award to celebrate and congratulate for 100 episodes. Album Rubrews.
snapping for myself. Thank you.
Wow. For my acceptance
acceptance
speech, I'd like to thank Dan from Damager for writing the best rock and roll song album with 8 songs in it. I'd like to thank Sarah for being a partner with me for 100 episodes. I'd like to thank Cameron for fixing every time I mess up on air and make me sound really smart.
For my acceptance speech, I would also like to thank Zach for being a wonderful creative partner and someone who I can text Yas to on a near daily basis. I would like to thank our editor and my boyfriend Cameron for editing the raw audio of this podcast and continuing to date me. And I would like to thank my cat Moose for being really sweet to the guests who come into this apartment. Yeah.
Oh, that was nice.
100 episodes. How about that?
Yeah. Stay tuned for the next 100. We'll get Dan on for 200. Dan and Garrison.
Yeah.
What are you doing in 2 years?
We'll see. Hopefully, still dudes rocking.
Hell yeah.
Well, one thing that is perennial, dudes will rock. Folks, we are Album Rebrews. We have been for 100 episodes, and we will continue to be for at least 100 more. If you want to check us out on Twitter and Instagram, we are at Album Rebrews. We hope you enjoyed our Halloween show. That's past by the time that this comes out. And if you want to take a look at our website, if you want to be a guest on this podcast, we have a guest host submission on our website at www.albumrebrews.com.
A giant thank you to our editor and singer-songwriter for our theme song, Cameron Bopp. Go check out his pop EP. It's a bop and a half. Thank you guys so much for listening to this show for 100 episodes. If you're one of the folks who've been hanging out with us since 2020, it's really special to do this show, and we're going to keep doing it. A giant thank you to Dan and Garrison from the band Damager for coming on, not one time, folks, but twice, and killing it both times. Go check them out. At Damager Shy on Instagram. Go listen to Forever Else. It's out right now. It is 8 phenomenal tunes. You're going to have a great time. We highly endorse it. I'm going to do 2 separate plugs here just in case. Go check them out for the EP release show of that on October 31st at Beat Kitchen, where they will be costuming as themselves. But you can also check out previous members of the pod, guests of the pod, Calco Loco and Modern Dairy.
Being costumed as themselves, also known as life.
Existential.
Hilarious.
No, I put on a mask every time I go on stage. It's not really
Halloween's the only day I don't wear a mask. Kanye West. Sorry. Canceled.
If you're listening from the St. Louis area, you can go check them out November 8th at Red Flag. Or if you're listening from another part of the country, Lawrence, Kansas, you can go check them out at Bottleneck on November 10th. Or if you're listening from this wonderful place we call home, Chicago, go check them out December 12th at Upstairs Subterranean. They're a great band. We're so happy to have them on again. Anything you guys want to say to the folks at home before we get out of here?
We're just lucky to be here, dudes rock.
Sorry, baby. We call him like we see him in Chicago.
Oh, boy.
Well, dudes do rock. And with that, to close out this episode, as we do every single episode, we will, in the order that we introduced ourselves, get very, very close to the mic and say a sweet and tender ASMR style goodbye. I will start. 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100. Goodbye.
The bones are their money, and so are the worms. Good night. Bye.
This is Wooden Soup. Good night.
Oh, yeah.